and welcome to the future, otherwise known as episode 32 of Tomorrow's World Audit Time. Evening, Mark.
Evening, Russ. How are you?
Oh, very good, Mark. I did notice that today, as we record, August the 3rd, it is, today would have been the 85th birthday of Sir Terry Wogan.
Oh.
Happy
birthday, Terry.
Happy birthday, Terry. And it did make me wonder, there's been a few things with AI recently where people feed people's voices into it, and then they can replicate them. I'm a big fan of these ones where they do the President Obama, Trump, and Biden chatting to each other that you can find on YouTube. But I wonder whether the BBC would ever consider, because they must have thousands upon thousands of hours of Terry Wogan's voice. Whether they've ever considered making a virtual Wogan, because surely that would be,
Well, A, why do you need to do that when Peter Serafinowicz is still alive?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And B, do you think he'd be top of the list?
I think Attenborough is going to be top of the list. I reckon they probably have done Attenborough. I reckon as some sort of stopgap measure in case they need an Attenborough to do some sort of nature documentary narration. They've probably already done an Attenborough.
Yep.
But I reckon Wogan's got to be second on the list, isn't he?
He is definitely a powerful domestic voice. Yeah. I don't know how he is in terms of the international audience. He's got to be, I don't know. The thing is, it is a very soothing voice, isn't it? But it doesn't have a lot of gravitas, I never thought. Because I was thinking, what would you use? In case of emergency, crack open the Attenborough AI voice, because actually, we didn't realise, but there's only an hour until the Earth is destroyed. And we'll let EastEnders finish, but then we probably better break the news gently. I don't know if Terry Wogan is going to quite cut the mustard in that situation.
Oh, I don't know. If I'm going out, I want to go out to the smooth tones of Wogie, as the asteroid approaches.
Well, to be fair, Russ, I mean, you weren't when he was alive, but right now, especially as I can see you sat there in your dressing gown, you're definitely a tog, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, AI, Mark. I mean, it's the hot button subject of the age, isn't it? It's AI this, AI that, AI everything. So I thought, well, shall we see if there's an episode that we can do that involves AI? Obviously, Tomorrow's World finished in 2002, so it probably would be fairly rudimentary. But I did find an episode from the 1st of May 2002, which purported to have an AI in it. I involved in it. I think, perhaps later on we'll find out how successful that is or not. But as an introduction, I thought we'd do that hackney thing that everyone's doing these days.
Yeah.
Where I would ask ChatGPT to write our introduction for us. And have you seen it?
I have seen it, Russell. Yeah, I saw it last night.
Would you like to for us to try and act it out?
Interestingly, clearly you didn't enter into ChatGPT like some of our old episodes, because there are 3 voices on this script. So yeah, absolutely. You going to play the narrator as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went on to ChatGPT. I entered the prompt: write the introduction for a podcast called Tomorrow's World Audit Time, which is presented by 2 hosts called Russ and Mark. It looks back at old episodes of the BBC TV show Tomorrow's World. And this is what it spat out. It spat this out within 5 seconds. So it's put in just as much as work as we do. Podcast music intro, which presumably would be the theme tune to Tomorrow's World, like we do. Then there's a narrator, me. I'll put on a voice. Welcome, fellow time travellers, to Tomorrow's World Audit Time. Music fades out. Have you ever wondered what the future looked like through the eyes of the past? Well, you're in for a treat. Join us, your hosts Russ and Mark, as we embark on a nostalgic journey back in time to revisit the groundbreaking BBC TV show that captivated millions and ignited imaginations for generations. Tomorrow's World! Then it says cheerful banter between Russ and Mark.
Yeah, I like that bit.
Right, so yeah, we've had our cheerful banter. Here it comes. Hey everyone, I'm Russ, and together with my co-host Mark, we'll be your guides on this captivating adventure. We're both avid fans of science, technology, and, of course, all things retro.
Absolutely. Tomorrow's World was a trailblazing program that aired for decades, showcasing futuristic inventions, incredible scientific breakthroughs, and wild predictions that left viewers in awe and anticipation.
And now, it's time to dust off the time capsule and revisit those old episodes. Each week, we'll dive deep into the past, exploring the marvels and missteps of Tomorrow's World.
We'll be reliving the excitement, laughing at the hilarious moments, and maybe even scratching our heads at some of the more far-fetched ideas they presented.
So, buckle up for a thrilling ride down memory lane, whether you watched Tomorrow's World when it first aired or are hearing about it for the first time. We promise you an engaging and enlightening experience.
We'll also be joined by special guests, experts in the field of science and technology who will help us analyse the show's prediction and give us some valuable insights.
It's not just a nostalgic trip, it's a chance to see how far we've come and maybe even inspire where we go next.
So grab your popcorn and get ready to journey through time with us on Tomorrow's World all the time.
New episodes drop every week, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to join us on this thrilling adventure.
Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay excited about what tomorrow might bring.
Bit more music. Tomorrow's World Audit Time, exploring the past, shaping the future. Music fades out. Wow, it's very upbeat, isn't it? Very upbeat.
It's very upbeat, Russ. Yeah, no, I have to say I did chuckle at that last night. Not least because, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to maintain that kind of cheerful vibe for as long as we record. That's the thing. You should have said that it was a 3-hour episode every time or something like that. I would imagine it would become a much more morose and sanguine kind of introduction than that.
Yeah. Do you think should we keep the tagline "Exploring the past, shaping the future"?
I quite like that one.
Are we shaping the future?
I was gonna lie. No. I don't know why I was going to say yes. It's like, are we bold?
No.
Well, yeah. Unless our accurate prediction of the future is that it'll be nostalgia fueled, which obviously is absolutely true.
Oh, yes.
Clearly, everyone's future. I mean, the fact that you walk around East London these days and everyone under the age of 30 is they're wearing clothes from the 90s.
Yes.
Is I don't know what it's like in Amsterdam, but here in East London it is a painful sight because I remember that first time round, and it turns out nostalgia is not fun when people are licking off your childhood. the one you safely thought was great. Obviously we both love the 80s, but when it turns out that people start kind of stealing, reminiscing about your times, like no, that doesn't feel fun anymore.
No. Well, nostalgia ain't what it used to be, Mark. That's what they say.
I enjoyed sowing, Russ, but I'm not sure about this reaping.
Anyway, yes, as I said, this episode, first May 2002. Should we crack on?
Let's do it, Russ. Let's do it. Let's shape the future.
Hello and welcome to Tomorrow's World.
Live from the BBC's Television Centre.
Yes, we're here for the next half an hour with the latest advances in science, medicine and technology.
Coming up on tonight's programme.
I'm Dr. David Bull and I'm at the Glenfield Hospital in Leicester where I'll be witnessing a revolutionary treatment for heart disease.
I'm in South Africa finding out how a British physicist ended up on this island off Cape Town working with penguins.
And I'll be finding out how this mini monitor is making life more pleasant for kids in hospital.
Now, for the first time on television, you can put your questions to a virtual character because Maddie's back in town. Great to see you, Maddie.
Thanks, Adam. It's good to be here.
Tonight, we're going to be examining the type of intelligence system Maddie uses, so we want you to ask her some questions about her family or her scientific knowledge. Ring us now, and we'll take your calls live later in the show. The number to ring, and it won't cost you anything, is 08000 839 839. That's 08000 839 839.
Now, listeners to our programme with long memories, Mark, may have recognised that particular theme tune and that particular lineup of presenters as being the ones that were involved in what I think we probably still consider to be the worst episode of Tomorrow's World we've ever seen. All the way back in episode 7.
Nothing even comes close.
And this episode is only from 2 weeks afterwards? 3 weeks afterwards?
3 weeks.
3 weeks after that episode. That's a point of comparison that we'll have today, I think. And comparing it to that one, I think, overall, I don't think it's quite as bad. Yeah. I'll leave.
But it's not good.
Yeah. No, it's not good. No. But yeah, so we've got Kate Humble, Roger Black, and Adam Hart-Davis in the studio, and then a couple of other people doing outside broadcasts. And a terrible opening credits and a terrible set. Set this all up nicely for the programme.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, it means that if you want to know what we're talking about, you just need to go back to episode 7.
Yes.
Where we discuss this in great pained detail. But right now, we just get to move on with our lives, Russ. I've never felt so free.
One thing, though, one thing I wanted to say is that this is still very much the era of trying to get everyone to phone in all the bloody time.
Yeah, yes, indeed, yeah.
So every programme tried to get you to phone in, didn't they?
It was driving up engagement before kind of YouTube algorithms existed, wasn't it? It was like going back to our AI generated introduction. This is the request to kind of smash the like and subscribe button, isn't it? It's like, please phone in, please engage with us. There must have been a John Bird style metric that kind of measured a show's ability to kind of grab not just the audience's attentions and viewing figures, but like the willingness to phone in.
Yeah, and I don't believe I've ever heard anybody phone in any TV or radio show who's had any decent contribution to that programme, apart from possibly that kid who phoned in and slagged off 5 Star back on Going Live or whatever it was, all that
absolutely.
Time back then. But other than that, it's just going to attract cranks and weirdos and boring people, isn't it? And
it is. Yeah,
and obviously,
well, they pay their licence fee too. Russ.
Yeah. There's a full 25 minutes or 20 minutes until we find out what questions have been put to Maddie.
Well, here's a question to the audience. I want you to email in right now to tomorrowsworldauditime@gmail.com. I reckon we'll probably get to that segment in about an hour and a bit. So you have an hour and a bit to think about what question would you ask an AI? What would you ask? You can ask anything you want. What would you ask? So write in right now. Press pause. Type as a message, and then we'll come back to that.
But first, coronary heart disease affects around 1 million people in the UK. The treatment for it is usually successful, but in certain cases can lead to complications. Dr. David Bull's been investigating the very latest surgical device which helps overcome these problems.
Bob Quinn is about to undergo revolutionary treatment for his coronary heart disease. He's about to have a new device put into his heart that was only given the official go-ahead 2 days ago. So, Bob, tell me your story. How did you end up in this theatre?
Well, 6 months ago, from having no pain at all, I was watching TV one day and got a very severe crushing, I can describe, sharp pain across my chest. And to be honest, I thought I was having a heart attack. I had to go into the Leicester Royal Infirmary, had various things done, and it was diagnosed as angina.
Angina is cramp in the heart muscle. It occurs when a coronary artery becomes narrowed because of a build-up of fatty deposits. The narrowing in Bob's artery can be seen when it's injected with dye. If nothing were done for Bob, he could get worsening angina and he may even have a heart attack. The typical treatment for this condition is to pass a small wire through the artery. A balloon is then passed along this wire to the narrowing. It's blown up to push back the fatty deposits and then removed. Another balloon is then used to position a stent at this site. A stent is like a coiled spring which pushes outwards on the artery walls, keeping them apart so the blood can flow freely. That's what's been done in the past, and it is extremely successful. But in 15% of cases, scar tissue forms around the stent, and that can cause the artery to re-narrow. And that means the pain, the angina, will return. The problem facing scientists is that when stents are put into the artery, they cause slight damage. The body then tries to heal itself by making cells divide to produce scar tissue. But in some people, this cell division is overzealous. So, for 10 years, scientists have been struggling to find a drug that will inhibit this process. And they've finally done it. Researchers have identified a drug that stops the build-up of the scar tissue, and they've produced a new type of stent which is covered with the drug. And Bob is about to have one of these inserted into his artery. The artery has been widened and the first balloon removed. Now it's time to insert the new stent.
You can see quite clearly the stent on the balloon. And I'm now going to pass this along the wire and place it at the site of the narrowing.
The fact that the drug is administered on the stent instead of giving a tablet means very low concentrations can be used, and the effect is localised.
To get the same effect as the effect of the drug on the stent, we would have to give so much to the patient they wouldn't be able to tolerate it.
Bob is a diabetic. Like all diabetics, his arteries are narrower than normal. Research has shown that diabetics have up to a 40% chance of scarring with the old type of stent. So for people like him, this new stent could be a lifesaver.
Now, Mark, before we get anywhere, Mark, been a while, but here we have a new presenter that we haven't had before, Dr. David Bull. Immediately recognised him. One of those of several TV doctors that always remind me of. Do you ever remember there was a Harry Enfield character called Dr. Philip Boyish Goodlooks,
Yes, I do,
who I think was probably based on Dr. Hilary Jones, like who was probably the original, the progenitor of these doctors. But he's got that sort of vibe about him. Just where he goes and touches his face. Yeah, Dr. David Bull. Do you know what Dr. David Bull is famous for these days?
No, so I have to guess. I mean, I'd like to think he was a hero in the picket lines and one of the strike leaders, but I assume he's either some kind of arch-Brexiteer or some kind of anti-vax lord. What?
You've done well there, Mark. He is the deputy leader of Reform UK.
Oh, the new
Brexit party,
the new UKIP.
Yes,
okay,
it's a renamed
my
Brexit party. Yeah, he's a deputy leader of it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to him.
Yeah. Well, he was but born in 1969. Qualified as a doctor in 1993, then became a on-screen doctor on Sky TV in 1995. So I didn't really spend much time practicing as an actual doctor.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
No. I was thinking that, and then I thought, well, how many years did Harry Hill practice medicine? Yeah. We don't ever go to him about that, do we?
No, we don't. No. But hang on a minute. Harry Hill does not profess to give medical advice on television.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
He was on lots of children's programmes in the 90s. He published a book in 1998 called Cool and Celibate, Sex or No Sex, which argued the benefits of abstinence in teenagers.
Probably,
wouldn't have even needed to send that round our school, Mark. But and then became presenter of...
We were absolutely knee-deep in celibacy.
Started presenting Watchdog Health Check and obviously Tomorrow's World in 2002. Then, like the man of science he is, he went on to present Most Haunted for 3 or 4 years.
Oh, God. Okay.
And in 2006, he was picked by the Tories to represent Brighton Pavilion in the 2010 election.
Oh,
he pulled out in 2009. But he was pictured at Brighton...
Well, I mean, he is a celibate.
Yeah. He was pictured at Brighton Pride Parade wearing a T-shirt with the slogan, "I've come out, I'm a Tory," saying it was acceptable to be gay and conservative. But then he fell out with the Tories and became the Brexit Party candidate for North West England and was an MEP. He's elected MEP in July 2019 and lasted until, obviously, we stopped having MEPs when we left Europe.
January 2020.
Yeah. I bet he's still got his maximum expenses in.
I was going to say, Russ. But of course, being such a diehard anti-EU, he refuses to take that money out there.
Yeah. Also, founded a creative branding company, which he named Incredibull, obviously because his surname's Bull.
Yeah.
But doesn't that make you immediately think of, obviously, the other meaning of the word bull, as in...
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So would you call a branding company that? It seems a bit...
No. It seems to be antithetical to the whole, I'm going to sell my ability to brand.
Yeah, by giving myself a really bad brand.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. But yeah, that's Dr. David Richard Bull. But here he is, showing us a man having an not experimental, but a brand newly developed stent fitted into his coronary artery to try and cure his angina that he's recently succumbed to. A man called what's his name? Bob. A man
who doesn't love a Bob.
A very cherubic-looking man who
absolutely
managed to look like Doctor Who era Tom Baker, but mostly like the character Arnie from that episode of Only Fools and Horses.
Colin Baker, not Tom Baker.
Colin Baker. Sorry,
Colin Baker.
Yes. I meant to say Colin Baker.
Absolutely.
Got my Bakers confused.
Yeah, you did. Happens to the best of us.
But mostly to me, looks like the character of Arnie from that Only Fools and Horses episode, where there's the jeweler who tries to con people out of, and including Dell, out of their money by feigning a heart attack just before doing a jewellery deal. And he looks
the classic episode.
Yes, he looks just like that bloke, which is very fitting considering this is about a man who has a heart condition. I don't know whether all men that look like that have heart conditions.
Well, I was gonna say, it's like what I really liked about Bob, because he's really sweet, actually. Like he's just quite honest. And I love the fact that clearly, let's go with the laws of probability here. Based on the fact that he has angina and he has diabetes.
Yeah.
I would imagine his lifestyle has led him to this particular operating theatre.
Yes.
And he doesn't care. And, as soon as he's fit and healthy again, he's straight back down the track.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. No kind of sense of like, oh my God, I've completely reimagined how my life, I'm just so lucky to be alive.
No,
not at all.
No.
I love it.
I mean, he probably imagines himself, he's basically RoboCop now and totally indestructible. He's got metal in his heart,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All the whiskey.
He's half machine.
Yeah.
You're right.
All the whiskey and fried breakfast can sail through now. I wouldn't be surprised if he, fit as a fiddle today, Mark. I'm sure.
Probably. I mean, that seems likely.
But as a segment, I had more of an interest in it because my dad has had stents fitted, because he's had a couple of heart attacks. So I had that made me more interested than I would normally be. But the actual segment itself is pretty by the numbers, straightforward. Segment, isn't it? There's not much. They don't try to make it exciting in any way. It's just this happened. Here's a diagram. That's it. There's an interview with the doctor. Bish bash bosh, done. So I don't think there's much to say about the segment, is there? Unless you've got any.
No, the only other thing I would say is I loved Bob. He's a ballsy champ of a man because he's fully conscious as they put this stent into his artery, which I think is pretty ballsy, pretty brave. He just lets it wash all over him. The other person I really liked in this is that when Dr. Bull is next to the surgeon's kind of talking his way through what he's doing. There is a very odd looking character in the background who has one of the weirdest haircuts or hairlines I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm sure he is a genius. I'm sure he's saved multiple lives, but he looks like a creep.
Yeah. He's one of those people that thinks that if he looks at his hair himself in the mirror and his hair looks fine straight on, then it looks fine to everyone else.
I suppose maybe, you're right. Now that I say that, maybe I am concerned about a trainee surgeon who doesn't understand that there are 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call him out. Yeah. We know nothing about him, but it's just incredible. He's just incredibly creepy in the background, and he's almost certainly a wonderful person.
Yes, yeah. Or he's just wandered in. He's just wandered in, and
he's just wandered in, to masturbate in private. There's a bloody camera crew there. How rude!
He's a massive Only Fools and Horses fan. He wants a signature.
Big Tom Baker fan. Disappointed to see Colin there.
But yeah, coronary heart disease, Mark. I looked at the British Heart Foundation report for April 2023. These are very recent stats. It's the third biggest killer in the UK after COVID and Alzheimer's stroke dementia. It's 66,000 deaths per year, which is 180 per day, or 1 every 8 minutes. Jeez. 1 in 8 men and 1 in 14 women die from it. Kills twice as many women as breast cancer. Do you know which part of the UK has the highest incidence of it? Highest death rates of it?
Of the UK?
Yeah.
It's got to be Scotland.
Yay! It's Scotland.
It's got to be Scotland, yeah.
And there's currently 2.3 million people in the UK who are living with it. But the good news is that due to, medical developments, in the 1960s, if you had a heart attack, 7 out of 10 people died, whereas that's been flipped these days. So if you have a heart attack, 7 out of 10 people will survive. So that's good. But a lot of thing that helps is these coronary stents that they put in. The first ever successfully inserted one was in 1986. Basically, as explained here, it's like a little expandable tube thing that keeps your artery open. Normally they fit 1 or 2 of them, but if they need to do a lot of them and they fit 3 or more, do you know what that's known in the trademark?
No, what's it called?
It's called a full metal jacket.
No!
Yes, yeah.
Wonderful.
So there's our little Kubrick mention there.
Yeah, very good.
The problem the original ones had, as explained in this piece, is that they tend to cause coagulation of the blood because the body can attack them and cause scarring, things like that. So this invention here, in comes Dr. Tony Gershlich, who is the main doctor of this piece. And it turns out he's an absolute pioneer of stents. This stent he's got here, which is called the drug-eluting stent, which means it slowly releases drugs to stop the clotting, is now, these days, the standard stent that is put in all people that have stents. it has become the standard of practice in stent insertion.
That's cool.
So this is the absolute exactly what we're looking for in these programs. This is something that's on the program, which has now made it to the future and is the standard thing.
So Bob was possibly the first person to ever get what is now the absolute standard stent.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
There we go. And we witnessed it.
Poor old Tony Gershlich died of COVID, aged 69 in November 2020. But he was given the inaugural British Cardiovascular Intervention Society Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017. Good old Tony saved countless
Hard
lives.
to disagree with that. Yeah, brilliant.
Every possibility, that, including my own father's. Because
Yeah.
he's had a couple fitted, so I presume they're these ones, if they're the standard ones. So, cheers, Tony. Cheers, Bob.
Well, I won't pour one out for Tony because I'm on a carpeted floor, but I will take a drink.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. That's lovely.
Next up.
Go.
Chances are, last time you found your football going a bit flat, you'd either left your pump at home or lost the adapter. But scientists in the States have come to the rescue. They've invented the world's first football to have its very own self-contained pump. Now, it looks exactly like a normal football, but if you look just here, and I've got a magic 5p, you just twist that, just like that, and out it pops miraculously, and you can fully inflate it. Now I'll get rid of that. Although it might seem a straightforward enough invention, serious science had to go into its development because everything comes down to performance. Have a look at this cross-section here. Now, the first problem to overcome was making sure the weight of the pump didn't pull it too much in one direction. So they came up with weighted areas like this on the inner surface to counterbalance the weight of the pump. Now, the pump is made of quite a hard material. It's quite rigid. So a cradle was created, and that's it here, to hold it away from the side of the ball. And the system ensures that the surface of the ball has the same softness all over. We have that back. Lovely. But the problem that faced scientists was getting the ball to rebound correctly. Now, early prototypes showed that the pump system was vibrating at a different frequency from the rest of the ball, and this was interfering with its movement. So, using computers to analyse the dynamics of a football in play, scientists worked out the optimal shape and construction materials for the pump. Not surprisingly, it's taken nearly a year and even required a bit of help from a NASA scientist. But finally, it's received the approval from FIFA and should be on sale later in the month.
Now, Mark, something I realised, as I said, this is only the second time we've dealt with this era because we've tried to avoid it as much as possible. The last time we did this was the famous episode where we actually had to record it twice because the first time we recorded it, recording broke. And then the second time we recorded it, I only upon editing it did I realise that in the second recording, I at no point gave you a rundown of Kate Humble. So
that's true. Yes.
I have gone back through the notes, found my notes on Kate Humble, and will address that issue by giving you a brief introduction to notorious badger botherer Kate Humble. So, born on 12th of December 1968 in Wimbledon, she's the granddaughter of Bill Humble, who was a renowned World War II pilot. He used to do aerobatic displays, like before World War II.
Those, don't we? Yeah.
And he was the chief test pilot for Hawker Siddeley, which meant he was the chief Hurricane test pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So that must have been quite important during World War II. But I presume that means she's probably quite posh, I think everyone in the RAF back then was quite posh, weren't they?
Weren't they just?
But yeah, she went to posh school in Reading, and then after school she travelled around Africa, from Cape Town to Cairo, doing various jobs, including waitressing, driving safari trucks, and working on a crocodile farm. She still goes back to Africa quite a lot. She's a big fan of the place. But her first TV appearance, Mark, was that she was working as the casting director, or as assistant to the casting director, on a TV film called Spy Maker, The Secret Life of Ian Fleming. And they needed an actress to take her kit off, and she couldn't find anybody, so she thought, I'll do it. So she did it. So the first time she appeared on TV, she appeared in The Nuddy.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she went off to do presenting work.
I have to say, Russell, I've just scrolled down to the bottom of our notes. I don't see any pictures there.
I think it's an ITV. It was an ITV thing.
So, we'll never know. We'll never see that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
lost to time. But she actually briefly presented Top Gear later on. But yeah, also president of the RSPB and member of the British Beekeepers Association. Owns her own sheep farm. and is a devout naturist who likes to get closer to nature by being naked.
Okay.
There's something joyous about it. I urge everyone to try it.
I'm going to pass, but thank you, Kate.
But she's just come on for a very brief bit here. A lovely little bit of advertising for the Spalding Sports Equipment Company.
Sports Equipment Company,
Yes.
yeah.
With this thing that, to me, when I first saw it, seemed pretty pointless, because she's got a football that has an integral pump in it that you can sort of pull out and pump the ball up whenever you want. And I just couldn't really think of a situation where someone's so desperate to play football and not close enough to either a pump or another football that they would need to do this. I don't know what you thought about it.
Yeah, I share your same feeling. It's like, I as someone who is closer relationship to sport than even you, Russ, as improbable as that is, I could not remember ever seeing this or thinking of any circumstances in which an integral pump would alleviate some kind of urgent problem. No, pure fluff. It's odd.
Which then, obviously, imagine my surprise, Mark. Imagine my surprise.
Every ball is like this now. Is that what you're going to tell me?
It's because we were misled by the soccer ball that's on the screen here.
Well, here's the thing. As I was watching this, because I even say in my notes here, I don't really feel like this product really went away, but happy to be shocked by you. Spalding don't really make footballs. That's, Spalding are not associated with football. I think they're more associated with volleyball, possibly basketballs, actually. So I've never seen a football with this in. So if you're now going to tell me that some other sport has it, colour me not shocked, but also interested. Is that what you're going to say, Russell?
Good recovery there, Mark. Good recovery.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you.
Obviously, Spalding is an American sports equipment company. It's got nothing to do with the town in Lincolnshire. It's founded by Albert Spalding in Chicago in 1876. And basically, over the years, Spalding has been responsible for the official NHL puck, the official Major League Baseball, the official NBA basketball, and the official AFL American footballs. Currently doesn't do any of them, but it is the official supplier of basketballs to the Harlem Globetrotters. So, But they, uncharacteristically at this time, spent a lot of money on developing this pump. As Kate says here, they spent millions on it. And it was a bit of a roll of the dice. A bit of a roll of the dice. Yeah. And it actually, because basketballs need to be really super pumped much more all the time, because otherwise it ruins your game of basketball. And people tend to, play basketball out in the streets and, whatever like that. Really useful for basketballs. So they put them in their basketballs. It had a whole advertising campaign fronted by Kobe Bryant. The introduction of this doubled Spalding's share of the market within a year. They sold 1 million of these basketballs with the integral pump in a year. And so it spurred them into sort of going into further directions of sort of research and stuff. And then they came up with something else called the never flat ball, which was this new type of ball that used special gas and materials and was guaranteed to not go flat even within a year, ever, no matter what you did with it. Well, I suppose you could stick a knife if you just played with it normally. So and then so they became sort of like, they massively boosted their basketball sales and things like that. It was a huge success. Oh, the ball's called the Spalding Infusion, by the way. That was the brand they went for.
I was going to ask.
You can't buy a Spalding Infusion these days. They discontinued once the Never Flat came out. But in 2021, there was a very brief 20th anniversary edition that you could buy, once again advertised by Kobe Bryant, and that would cost you $49.99. So you could have got yourself a brand new Spalding Infusion then with the original pump system in it. But yeah, so actually, surprisingly decent success. Great advert for Spalding, but we were just misled by the whole soccer ball.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like a football either. But well, okay, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that they would obviously sell it that way.
Yeah, because in Britain we wouldn't have any clue what a basketball was, would we?
I'm
baffled by
I've heard the word. I know what the two things are separately, but that's when I get confused. Yeah.
Now, as we've heard recently with David Beckham and Gary Neville in football, as with any sport, one of the big downsides are the injuries, the most common of which are sprains and strains. Without quick and effective treatment, they can lead to long-term problems. With injuries like sprained ankles or calf muscle strains, one of the best treatments is ice. Now, the cooling effect combined with light compression helps to prevent swelling in the damaged area and reduce the pain. Now, using ice has its problems. It makes moving around difficult, and applying ice that's too cold for too long can lead to ice burns. That is until now, because inside here is a bandage that will offer all the benefits of an ice pack without the drawbacks. Well, joining me now are Mark Bender, who's a physiotherapist who treats many top sports people like Tim Henman, and Eddie Betts, who's a 400-metre runner who unfortunately has recently suffered a sprained left ankle. So let's put this bandage to the test, Mark. Let's get it on there. That ankle's certainly more swollen than this one. Now, This is a perfect subject here, just sprained his ankle. Now, inside this bandage is a liquid containing alcohol-based products and other cooling agents. Once the vacuum-sealed package is opened, these agents start to evaporate, cooling the bandage and the injured area underneath for up to 2 hours. And this same bandage is actually reusable by soaking it again. So, Mark, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I think it's going to work pretty well.
Yeah, and Eddie, for you, is it feeling cold yet?
Yeah, it's starting to feel cold already.
OK, well, we've got the whole show. We'll come back just before the end of the programme to test how effective the bandage is in keeping Eddie's ankle cold.
Now, I don't want to keep going back to episode 7, where we last looked at this era, but there's yet again another weird similarity here, is that this is remarkably similar to the segment we saw in that one, where in that one it was a new type of bandage for treating burns victims.
Yeah.
And here, just a few weeks later, we have a new type of bandage for treating runners who've sprained their ankles. The whole studio setup is virtually identical.
It is shockingly identical with one key difference, and yet, for whatever reason, the producers of Tomorrow's World have decided that the only way to demonstrate bandaging a patient is that they simply must be on a lazy boy. But here's the thing. Here's the workshop, because you and I, partly because we had to speak about the previous episode twice, we were going a bit dilally, and you and I became quietly obsessed with the fact that it was Supergrand's lazy boy, because it was this monstrous tartan explosion, and yet they have a completely different lazy boys.
Yeah.
They have a minimum. This Tomorrow's World era has a minimum of 2 lazy boys for the applying of bandages to patients.
This is a more sort of refined, understated sports.
It's altogether
sports
it's a sports lazy boy. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
This is a remarkably rubbish segment, isn't it, in terms of watchability?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's our second held segment of the show. In order to create the title cards for the YouTube video and just for Instagram, stuff like that, the teaser and the title, I scroll through the episodes, or scrub through the episode, I think is the correct phrase, isn't it? High-speed scrubbing.
Yeah.
Just see what images jump out, and then I can kind of, almost kind of devoid of the context. Just literally looking at the images. And this episode is the dullest one I've ever gone through. And of course, this is partly at the heart of it, because it is visually dull.
Yeah.
Because at least a few weeks ago, when the episode that was broadcast a few weeks ago had that incredible reconstruction of the man working in the Indian restaurant in Whitechapel, leading to his horrific burns. Although he was the happiest, nicest person we'd ever seen on television. Yeah. This is just so visually dull. And the thing that really got me, actually, is that Roger Black is an actual professional athlete, or was. He is an Olympian, an actual, genuine, bona fide Olympian, and he has won medals.
Yeah.
At the Olympics, I think, or more, certainly he's won gold medals at the World Championships. Listen to episode 7 for his full CV, thanks, where Russell goes through it all. And yet, you get no sense of any personal connection on his part to what is happening here. He is so kind of unemotionally wooden. It's so weird. Because actually, the one thing we missed talking about the previous one is that Kate Humble fluffs her lines a couple of times. And actually, this entire episode, much like the previous one, everyone is delivering their lines in a really rushed, kind of staccato, breathless way.
Yeah, yeah.
And it leaves no space whatsoever for any humanity. And in fact, actually, you made the point in the notes we haven't brought up, so we can talk about it a little bit later. Maddie actually is this visual avatar, is built with kind of little tics and little kind of human emotions that kind of, like, when she's not talking, she's not just kind of stood there stoically. She kind of like fidgets and stuff like that. She shows more emotion as a computer created avatar than Roger Black does, when in theory he could have really genuinely empathized with the patient, like someone who's injured, can't do the one thing he's really good at, he really loves, the passion, and it's just nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Maybe Roger Black doesn't want to admit any weakness. Maybe.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
I never got injured in my whole Olympic career. I checked these couple of fellas we got here. We've got Eddie Betts is the injured party, and I looked up to see if I could find anything about Eddie Betts. He's got his own Instagram account. He's still about. He's still doing the odd bit of athletics. Like, I looked up the British athletics records, and in the 400 meters hurdles, he is the 41st fastest British person to ever do the 400 meters hurdles.
I mean, that's not bad, is it?
No, I don't know whether whether this bandage aided him in achieving that particular record. He did it.
I'm going to assume absolutely yes.
Yes, he did it at a time of 50.49 seconds. Do you know who the fastest is?
40 metres men's?
Yep.
I don't know, Roger Black.
Akabusi.
Oh, of course, Akabusi. Akabusi still has the record.
Yeah, and he's got he's just got the record. He's got like the top about 20 records.
Oh,
it's
wow.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was 47.82 at the Barcelona Olympics.
Bloody hell.
But yeah, and then his physio, this fella here, who goes by the name that would. I'm glad he didn't go to our school. The name of Mark Bender. He, I think, is mentioned in this. States that he's Tim Henman's physio.
They mentioned that, yep.
Also went on to work for Andy Murray in 2013 to 2018. And then now he runs a physio and fitness place with his wife called Studio Zest, which has branches in Wiltshire and Chelsea. And there's a picture of him at the bottom of the... There he is. He's lost his ginger hair.
The top one. Oh, yeah. Actually, he does look a bit... Yeah, okay. He looks all right.
But
what does he look like there? Oh, do you know, he looks like an albino Judge Doom from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
But without the big red eyes.
Yeah, that does a bit. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. Ah, see, it helps.
That helps all the people that can't see that photo, which is everyone. But yeah, I mean, what we're going to say, it's a bandage, a sports bandage that cools your ankle. Of course it exists, Mark. I mean, I'm amazed that this didn't exist in 2002. It's just got alcohol on it. I mean, alcohol existed in 2002. Bandages existed in 2002. What's the big thing? But yeah, if you want to buy one, I mean, Physical seems to be the market leader. They're the ones that come up most in search results. Get yourself one for £12.99 on Amazon.
Okay, that's a bargain. And they can be reused.
They can be reused. You can just soak them in alcohol again. I think you can buy a proper physical alcohol to re-soak them, or presumably just gin. But other than that, that's obviously, I say other than that, we do obviously have to wait for the exciting reveal at the end of the program. So this is really, it's really set up like a real arc for the program, isn't it? And
it is
absolutely on the edges of our seats until that.
It is the emotional marrow of this particular episode, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'm in Cape Town Harbour to meet a rather unusual man. He's a British physicist with a passion for penguins. But to see him, I need to take a trip across Table Bay to Robben Island. It's famous as the place where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, but 5 years ago the prison was turned into a museum, and now the island is home to something else. One of the most accessible penguin colonies in the world. Now, you might have thought that penguins only lived amongst icebergs, but of the 17 species, only 2 are strictly Antarctic. However, most are endangered. To save them, scientists are learning more by tagging them. And one such scientist is our homegrown physicist, Peter Barham. I suppose the big question is, what are you, as a physicist, doing involved in all this?
Apart from having great fun, which is the real reason for doing it, obviously, we've been inventing new ways of tagging penguins. Penguins have to be tagged for research purposes, and this is a sort of tag we've come up with, which is a plastic tag that can be stretched over the penguin's flipper, easily read.
So the foot would come through here, would it?
The wing goes through there.
Oh, the wing?
It's on the wing, so this stretches over the wing, and stays up against the body. You can't tag a penguin's foot because they sit down and they cover their feet. You can't read the numbers, so you have to put it on the wings.
So, Peter, what is it about penguins?
I suppose they're cute, they're lovely little things. At least that's what they seem to be like. But as you'll get to know later on today, their cute image is something that isn't really justified.
We team up with Peter's colleagues and head off in search of a bird to tag. Many of the penguins are already labelled with the traditional steel band, but that causes all sorts of problems. It slows them down in the water, rubs their wings raw, and if it loosens, can have disastrous consequences. Peter's just spotted a bird with such a band. But catching it is easier said than done.
Ow! Ow!
Well done. Hang on, you're all caught up there.
Ow!
Where's the best place for me to go?
You can see this band that's badly open.
Yep.
That could easily slip around there and cause damage to the feathers. Feathers being worn quite badly there because it's moving around too much. And even worse, a stick can get caught in there, and then it's trapped on the stick and it can't escape, and it will starve to death because it can't get out. So that's a really awful band.
The plastic tags are softer, so more comfortable, and crucially don't stretch, so they won't get caught on branches. At the moment, Peter can only test out his new band on untagged birds, so this one will have to be left in place. So now we're off to find an unbanded bird. A few hours later, we strike lucky.
Get it off the end. So it's when it's banded.
Wow.
Okay, simple as that. I'll take the other thing off. Right. Now this band is nice, soft rub. You can see it's nice and soft, so it shouldn't damage the bird's feathers. And also it sits close, if you like that, it sits close up to the body, so it's streamlined against the body when he swims along.
Now, Mark, I always forget that you get penguins in South Africa. Do you think that South African penguins have philippomatic immunity?
Is that the joke that you were going to put in the notes for us because it was too special?
Yeah.
Well done. That was very good. Yeah, excellent.
Did you hear that? Philippomatic immunity.
I did, yeah, of course. Of course, it is a lot of fun to do any kind of South African accent, of course, isn't it, though, my friend? Yes. Especially if you can quote one of your favourite films.
It's funny, isn't it? That film is essentially the go still for anybody of our generation, the go-to reference for all of South Africa. Essentially, is Lethal Weapon 2.
No, hang on a minute. Not everyone, Russell. No? Just you and most people. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. This is the second time we've seen the day in the life segments. Obviously,
yes.
Last time we saw it, it was a crudely on a camcorder filmed day in the life of a couple of astronomers who didn't know how to hold a video camera and
nothing. Yep.
I believe we said it was the worst piece of television that we'd ever seen broadcast on the BBC.
On television, yeah, absolutely, yeah, on television, full stop.
Yeah.
And,
They've clearly.
I had forgotten about it until I saw a day in the life, and all I had was like just kind of PTSD flashbacks.
Yeah. They clearly listened to our criticisms though, and have sent out Kate to present this and filmed it on proper cameras and even added musical soundtrack. Actually, the only one part of the episode that has multiple pieces of music that we could recognise. Thought it was a reasonably decent segment. Peter Burham seems like a nice chap. Reminded me slightly of a young Jeff Capes. And they sort of got to see some penguins waddling about. They're always fun, aren't they?
They're fun little things, yeah. Even if they're like angry little fuckers who just vomit everywhere, according to. Yeah, this is fine. I mean, in comparison, as you say, to the only other example of a day in the life we've seen, this is both. I will say this is both better and worse. It's better because obviously it's actually professionally produced, but it's worse because. Thinking back to that previous one, there was something kind of hypnotic about how boring it was that convinced me it really was a kind of an actual day in the life. Whereas like this is not a day in the life for Peter because he's having to entertain a BBC film crew, which I do not suppose happens to him every day. Though I do believe he is a penguin botherer, so I would imagine that quite a lot of it is him fucking around with penguins. My one criticism, though, Russ, is that so he's invented, or has he invented this? Are we clear he's invented it? Anyway, yeah, maybe he has, but he's invented a new little rubber tag that fits on the flipper of the penguin. And to show how it's an improvement, they capture a penguin that has been tagged with the classic metal one. Yeah. And he goes at great pains, a huge amount of empathy to explain how this metal tag is opened up. So it's kind of cutting into the penguin. It's kind of making, the area around his arm and actually his chest quite raw, rubbing away. It's very sad. And then Kate, with utter... Actually, with a huge amount of enthusiasm, explains on VO how, well, we have to leave it there, move on with our lives. Like, so, and I just that actually took me aback. Yeah. So he's not allowed to touch other people's tags, it would seem.
No.
Even if they are torturing the penguin to death, slowly chipping away at it literally. I thought that was a bit weird.
Yeah. Although maybe he's just saying, maybe because legally he can't do that. But actually, when the cameras aren't there, he's doing it all the time. You never know, do you? He might be wrenching them off whenever he finds them when the cameras aren't on. It's just,
I hope
he
so.
Can't do it in public.
Unfortunately, you and I have no evidence for that.
the African penguin, Mark, also known as the black-footed or jackass penguin because of its loud donkey-like noise that it likes to make.
Which we hear, actually,
Only lives in southern African waters, which means it is the only penguin that has to worry about being eaten by leopards. Which I thought was quite...
Are there many leopards in the sea south of Africa?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, everywhere. Obviously, like all animals, they were once extremely numerous, and now the population is rapidly declining, and they are endangered. At the beginning of the 19th century, they reckon there was about 4 million of them. In 2019, they reckon there's about 40,000 of them, and they reckon they could easily be extinct by 2026. So
that seems quite soon.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It does. But they are the perfect zoo penguin because they don't need to be kept cold because they're happy in warm weather. So you can find them in zoos everywhere. So they won't go extinct. They just won't be. They won't see them in the wild, but they'll be all over in zoos everywhere. Apparently they've got a load of them in Amsterdam Zoo actually because Amsterdam is the head of the European breeding program.
Very good. Do you find yourself going over there to pick them up, Russ?
Oh yeah, that was some other thing. Yeah. Do you think on the back of these tags they put little jokes like they do at the penguin bars? They should do, shouldn't they?
I think you'd be silly not to, wouldn't you?
And they're all just my flipper-matic immunity joke as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Because it's definitely worth repeating.
Yeah. But yeah, so this Robben Island, the Robben Island colony that I talk about here, actually Robben Island means seal island in Dutch, which is confusing. But yeah, the original penguin colony that was here was exterminated in 1800 by men. So they reintroduced it in 1983, and it was very successful, as we see here in this VT. And it grew to 16,000 penguins by 2004. But then ever since then, it's been declining. And so by 2021, there was only 2,000. I was thinking about this. I was thinking, and they weren't pinpointing what was causing this. And I was thinking, well, is it these new silicon rubber tags they've all been put on them?
That's exactly what I was thinking, Russ, to be honest.
Yeah. They're secretly being wiped out by the kind tags that they've had on them.
Well, I'm going to be honest. The only other thing that I thought that popped into my head at exactly the same time was like either it's the silicon tags or they just really miss their old friend who used to live there.
Speaking of which, Peter Barham, the Professor Peter Barham, is my absolute standout star of the episode, Mark. He's the biggest surprise. You noticed him there wearing his penguin T-shirt. Absolute huge fan of penguins.
By the way, he wasn't the friend I was talking about, Russ.
Oh, who?
Mandela.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I forgot about him.
He's the other famous resident of Robben Island. But anyway, so tell me about Peter.
Peter Barham, who, if you look up pictures of him, is almost always wearing some sort of clothing involving a penguin, as you probably see in that photograph of him that I put at the bottom of the thing.
Yeah.
A lovely waistcoat of emperor penguins there.
Yeah.
But in his VT, he's wearing a penguin T-shirt. Have you noticed?
He is. Yeah. I did. I noticed.
But Kate mentions that he's not any sort of nature person. He's a physics professor.
Yeah.
And it's because his main interest is polymer physics. And obviously this is why he's looking into this new type of sort of like rubbery tag. But outside of his massive interest in penguins, he also had he developed an interest in cookery. So when he finished his PhD, he decided to start baking cakes. And he tried to follow recipes in the recipe books for Black Forest Gâteau. And he was really annoyed by how the fact that the recipe never came out consistently as the recipe said it would, like it was inconsistent. So he's decided to look at how to make a Black Forest Gâteau from the principles of physics. And he created did this whole lecture for his students where he, rather than following a recipe, he just used pure physics and chemistry to bake a Black Forest Gâteau in front of them and proved to them that he would make it perfect every single time. And then from that, he published a book called The Science of Cooking. And around the same, this was 2001, and around the same time, there was this young man called Heston Blumenthal who had developed an interest in the science of cooking, and he contacted old Peter Barham here and said, "Peter, teach me everything you know about science and cookery." And so Peter took him under his wing and basically was the godfather of molecular gastronomy.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
because when you were talking about Black Forest Gâteau, I was thinking about Heston Blumenthal. I think did a TV series for the BBC. It might have only just been one series of 6 episodes, in which in each episode he took a famous dish, broke it down, and then made like the platonic ideal of it. And one episode I remember was Black Forest Gasso, which is not something I'm terribly fond of. But by the end of the episode, I was convinced that what he had cooked is probably the platonic ideal of the Black Forest Gasso.
Yeah.
And it all comes from our penguin bothering friend Peter.
Exactly, yeah. And so Peter obviously got a bit of a name for himself in the chef community.
Yeah.
And he went over to you remember El Bulli that used to be voted the best restaurant in the world all the time.
Yeah.
Worked with those chefs over there. And then after that, he went over to Noma.
Yeah.
Worked with those chefs over
Wow.
there. And he actually became the visiting professor in molecular gastronomy at the University of Copenhagen. Yeah. He also holds the Guinness World Record for the fastest ever ice cream made. Presumably, probably involves liquid nitrogen, I would imagine.
Obviously, yeah. What a side hustle.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's probably his main hustle these days, to be honest. But he still loves penguins. Yeah. He still, still loves penguins and still wears the penguin outfits. But
do you think he likes them boiled or fried?
Do you reckon a penguin? Do you reckon they probably taste all right, wouldn't they?
I'd say it'd be quite like a fishy chicken.
Yeah. I know people eat puffin, don't they? That's a bit of a delicacy in certain places.
Yeah.
Probably tastes a bit like puffin, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Maybe a fattier puffin.
Why did they be fattier?
Because they need to be kept warmer, don't they?
Yeah. Not in South Africa, of course.
No.
I don't know, yeah, good question. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone eating penguin, but they must have done.
No.
Otherwise, where have the other 3,960,000 gone?
Yeah, good point, yeah. But as far as these flipper bands go, apparently they're still in use in South Africa and Bristol Zoo. That's as much as I could find about the... Hopefully they're not responsible for decimating the population.
I would never have guessed that this guy would have invented molecular gastronomy.
No, not at all.
That's incredible. Wow, that is genuinely amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't me trying to catch them, vicious little brutes. Yesterday, in the southeast alone, we saw rain, wind and sunshine. As far as the weather goes, it's hard to know what to expect. Accurate weather forecasting, even with supercomputers, relies on getting a detailed picture of the atmosphere at a moment in time and then extrapolating that forward to predict what the air will do next. And by the time you've got that picture from thousands of measurements taken by weather balloons and remote weather stations, things have already changed. But a new satellite called Aqua, being launched by NASA this Saturday, should help a bit. Most weather satellites are 36,000 kilometres above the equator. Aqua will be only 600 kilometres up and in a polar orbit always over the hottest part of the day. From here, its battery of sensors will measure infrared radiation leaving the Earth's atmosphere and translate this into detailed temperature and moisture measurements at various altitudes. Meteorologists hope the new satellite will make long-range weather forecasts more accurate and improve predictions of how and why our climate changes. Someone whose job should be made a bit easier by this satellite is BBC weatherman Rob McElwee. Rob, how much difference is this satellite going to make?
It's got a great potential. You say the detail is the important bit, the starting detail. We have a Met Office model that's got 30 layers. It slices the atmosphere into 30 layers. The current satellite's just too coarse to give that information for the input. This one, the Aqua, Latin for water, of course, has got so much more resolution that we've got a very good starting position, I think.
Right. Now, most of the weather starts over the oceans, doesn't it?
It does, you're right. And that's a current problem. We've got floating buoys in the ocean, but its data's sparse. Now, if you can use this microwave sounder from the Aqua to get a good spread horizontally over the ocean, get the temperatures, that's another very good starting position.
Right, sounds great. So does that mean that tomorrow's weather is going to be properly forecast?
Of course it will, but not because of this satellite. I think we've got 6 months to get it up and running, 6 months to feed the information into the models, so it's at least a year away before we start to see anything from it, I think.
OK, thanks very much, Rob.
Had you completely forgotten about the existence of Rob McElwee, Mark?
I had, Russ. I had for my sins. I had, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like someone... Actually, I discovered he was the second longest running weather presenter after Michael Fish retired. But completely, just totally vanished from my mind until I saw him come on the screen here. It was quite nice to see him, actually. Him and his extraordinary monobrow there, which you would think that the BBC makeup ladies would at least strongly hint at removing. No?
I see what you mean for Tomorrow's World. Oh yeah, probably. But like, I suppose I can imagine he was quite a princess though, Russ. I think he probably would have flounced in And there would be no telling him. Well, based on some of his fashion choices, not alone anything else, he definitely had a vision for how he wanted to look.
But yeah, that monobrow made me think of the fella in Father Ted who's got that I Shot JR t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
With that. And also he's called Rob McElwee, right? And he looks Scottish, and so I had always thought he was Scottish, but he's not Scottish at all. Did you think he was Scottish?
I thought he was English, but I would have guessed he would have been from from Scottish family. Is he not at all? Is he Welsh?
He's from Staffordshire.
He's from Staffordshire.
I think just the combination of his name and his appearance had made me imagine that he had a Scottish accent that didn't even.
I suppose he is quite pallid, isn't he?
But anyway, yeah, this is like another short bit, isn't it? Adam Hart-Davis tells us about a new satellite that's just being launched. Weather satellite. We get one of those standards. What we tend to get quite a lot on Tomorrow's World is an animation that's clearly been produced by whoever's sending up the spacecraft, probably NASA.
Yeah, part of a PR package.
Yeah, part of a PR package. We see that doing its business. Then he brings in old McElwee to explain to us the benefits of it. Job done. They're standing amongst I think we should mention this again, probably the worst bit of set design in Tomorrow's World history, which is the rack upon rack of poor quality flat screen.
Row upon row of columns.
Columns of flat screen monitors.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of Demolition Man. Of the
yes, absolutely. Which I think was an observation we made first time we recorded the episode 7, but not the second time.
Yeah. So I thought I'd throw that in there.
Well done.
But I guess flat screen would have been new back then. Maybe is that possibly why they're there?
I think these kind of small ones that would have been actually there were for those who don't know what we're talking about, who are old enough, they were flat screen TVs. What would you say, like 12 inches across? But they had so they were grey screen, and then underneath there was this kind of weird bra shaped element that had like 2 speakers in and the buttons. I would imagine that they were the first proper kind of flat screens you could probably imagine getting if you were replacing a television. Like, our kitchen TV's gone, well, we can get one of these new flat screen ones. Yeah. But they look awful. Yeah. So much of this show is dated in a very painful way.
Yes, yeah. But like Adam and Rob McElwee are just standing amongst them, sort of in the middle of them.
Yeah,
almost like they're halfway through a game of Strike It Lucky.
Yeah.
But I mean that really is a segment. It's again not very interesting. I mean, segment is it? There's not really much to get your teeth into as far as the presentation or what's on there.
There's nothing really. It's lovely to see Rob McElwee, but that's about.
Incidentally, Rob McElwee's last BBC forecast was in January 2011. Got moved to back office duties. But then, December 2014, he moved to Al Jazeera. He's now senior weather presenter at Al Jazeera.
Oh, that's lovely.
Which has got to be a pretty easy job, hasn't it? He's go.
It's got
hot and sunny again, lads. Yeah. So this Aqua satellite was originally designed for a 6-year mission, but like a lot of these spacecraft, it turns out they've lasted a lot longer than they expected. So it's actually still there. It's still collecting data now. So that's way
impressive.
Past its designed mission.
Best before date.
Yeah, best before date. And they reckon it will continue collecting data until 26-27. So it'll probably be able to see the last of those penguins die out from space.
Yeah.
And then if nothing's done to sort it out, it will re-enter the atmosphere in 2046 and crash into the sea or whatever.
Cool.
But it has proved a great success. It has a very high level of accuracy. Everyone was very pleased with it, and thousands of scientists and meteorologists have used its data. It's been an absolute top of the shop success for what it is. Just woo!
Wonderful.
The other thing it made me think of is that it's called Aqua, and they've had the band Aqua have had a bit of resurgence recently because of the Barbie film coming out, and obviously they had a song called Barbie Girl.
They did.
And then yesterday I saw a really good tweet. I don't know if you've seen this, by the comedy writer called Tom Neenan.
No, do tell.
And he's noticed that there's been a bit of a match-up between the song titles of Aqua songs and the recent box office.
Dr. Jones.
So yeah, there's Barbie Girl. There's Dr. Jones, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
There's another song called Cartoon Heroes, like for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
And then they had another one called Turn Back Time for the Flash.
Yeah.
So he's asking, did Aqua ever make a song called Building a Bomb for Matt Damon?
That is good.
Yeah.
Turn Back Time. That was from the film Sliding Doors.
Yes.
If memory serves me correct.
Yeah. A much slower number than the other three.
Well, isn't that the classic, certainly back in the 80s and 90s, there was the classic rule of three where the third hit of any new band had to be a slow ballad.
Oh, right, yeah.
To prove that they could do anything other than what they had, the two hits that they'd be famous, which would have been Barbie Girl and Dr. Jones. Yeah, so even like Spice Girls, like their third song was like Two Become One or whatever. Like there was a classic, so like it fit that rule. Actually, Turn Back Time isn't a bad song.
No, I quite like it, yeah. Well, anyway. Next.
Now, a few of us welcome a prolonged stay in hospital, and one of the most frustrating things can be the boredom of being confined to bed. For children, it can be even more of a problem. Katie's been to the children's ward at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford, where a new wireless monitor is giving kids more mobility.
2-year-old Nathan spends a lot of time in hospital being treated for a brain tumour.
What's it like for Nathan being here in the ward and not being able to move around?
It's quite frustrating for him. He's normally used to being able to roam around, and he likes being outdoors and playing, and just like any normal 2-year-old. But when he's attached to the monitor, he has to stay on the bed.
Traditionally, nurses keep an eye on the children's vital signs with these large monitors that plug into the wall by their beds.
But now technology is helping. This small monitor can be worn by the patient as they wander around the ward or even around the hospital. And while they're doing that, the nurses will be able to keep an eye on their blood oxygen and heart rate.
For Michael, being able to get out of bed means he can keep up to date on schoolwork in the computer room.
So this is what you're carrying around. Where's it actually attached to you?
Well, it's attached to my chest here. They literally peel off a sticky thing and then attach them. And it just measures my heart rate here. And this is the oxygen flow, which I measure it through this thing. And then there's the pulse trace.
What's it like wearing that device?
It gives you a lot more freedom. I mean, you should be confined to the bed. You can go anywhere you like, to a certain extent. I mean, you can ask, as long as you ask the nurses and tell the nurses where you're going. And it does warn you if you're going out of range.
The monitor sends information over the airwaves. The signals are picked up by a receiver and then relayed to the nurses' station, where the vital signs are displayed graphically on a screen.
Oh, there's another health segment, Mark. Another health segment.
Hey.
And also, as anything from this era, sort of the late 90s onwards era, the health segments tend to be a bit mawkish, have sad music and show you a sick kid and try and tug at the heartstrings. I do not like it. Do not like it, Mark.
Desperate to engender some kind of emotional response from the audience, who I'm frankly aren't watching because they're too busy phoning in to speak to Maddie any minute now.
And anyway, scientists don't have emotions, Mark. That's the whole point.
That's true, of course. Yes.
It's wasted on us. I'll tell you what was good about this segment, though, Mark. Triumphant return of the Dutch angles, which was exciting.
That's true.
Some lovely Dutch angles here to at least add a bit of variety to the otherwise incredibly sort of straightforward, bland shots of people wandering around hospitals looking at stuff. And also the invention is something which essentially we've all, pretty much half the population at least, have strapped to their wrists constantly these days, and it's tiny, whereas this is like some big old lumbering beast that they can only use in hospitals. It's not. Do you have anything to say about this?
I'm just desperately looking at my notes. I don't think I do. Did we talk about how Rob McElwee looks old and young at the same time? Does that help?
Did you want to know how old he is?
Rob McElwee, yeah, go on then.
In this programme, he's 41.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's difficult to tell, isn't it? No, I don't really have much to add to this segment. It's perfectly fine. And like obviously it would be rum of us to hold against this segment the fact that everyone now has that technology, but like smaller on their wrist. When arguably this is like you could celebrate it for kind of showing off this technology in a nascent state, but but also in a revolutionary state. But it's just kind of boring, isn't it? I always think that one of the great cultural differences between the UK and the US when it comes to media, and one of those things where I think we can all be proud when we're on this side of the Atlantic, is that our emotional interviews don't have a soundtrack.
No.
Because British journalists and British broadcasters in general are confident that what the person is saying will connect with the audience, and it doesn't need any kind of spoon feeding, or like anytime you watch 60 Minutes or whatever, one of those American programs, it is beyond annoying. It's patronizing beyond all comprehension how they have to have some kind of, as in mawkish indeed, or maudling a soundtrack added to it. So I didn't like the fact that this has kind of sad music in the background. It's like we start off with a young boy called Nathan. It's like instantly you have sympathy for Nathan and his family. No young child should be in a hospital long enough that they're kind of getting bored and stuff like that. It's awful. We don't know what's wrong with them, but it's like it's sad. You do not need to make it sadder.
No.
And ultimately, this should be a relatively uplifting segment, because it is anyway. Who cares? Next. No, go on, tell me all about it, Russ.
I was going to say, but the only highlight of this I thought was I actually really liked the lad. He came across as quite suave for his age.
He's a bit of a posh boy.
He was a little bit posh, but the way he said, you can wander around if you like, as long as you chat to the nurses or something like that. And he just said, like, I think he's gonna be a bit of a lady killer when he's older. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's the people in this. I tried to look up the people in this because I couldn't find anything about Lucy Brooker or her kid Nathan, but I did find the nurse. Who was wearing a lovely tabard.
Fabulous.
A beautiful kid's tabard with all sorts of cartoons all over it. Tara Llewellyn, she's now the head of nursing at Cambridge University Hospital.
Oh, that sounds very good.
So,
well done,
she's
Tara.
done well.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Anne Thompson, who was the lady in charge of this.
Thatcher lookalike.
Yes, actually, I was thinking she looked a little bit like Supergran. Mentioned it at Supergran.
Oh.
She retired in 2013, age 60, to go travelling and take up golf. You'd think somebody a senior medical person would have taken up golf many years ago.
I'm surprised it's not part of the study course at the beginning. Yeah.
She was responsible for the creation of the children's respiratory part of the John Radcliffe Hospital where they are there. So she's obviously done a lot of good work in her life. So good on her. There's nothing I can say about this heart monitor, this sort of like vital signs monitor thing, because, well, like I said, it's just literally just been miniaturised and put in people's watches and phones and Fitbits and stuff like that. You're top of the range one, you can get a Garmin Fenix Pro 7, cost you £650.
Bloody hell.
Or you could get a knockoff Chinese Fitbit, it costs you £9.99. Takes your pick. I don't know which one,
Pays your money.
Pays
your pick, yeah. What does the £650 one do?
I have no idea.
Who cares?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean...
Rhetorical question.
It's on your wrist, Mark, so I mean, I can only imagine.
It's almost time for you to put your questions to Maddie. Now, for those of you who haven't met her before, she's our virtual guest presenter who was created using a graphics computer. The graphics give her a realistic 3D appearance and also control her body movements, such as her mouth, so that they coordinate in time with her speech.
Now, of course, Maddie hasn't got a brain of her own, so to enable her to answer your questions, she makes use of a chat engine. It's effectively a database which she'll be drawing on in response to your questions.
We've been taking your calls all night and lining them up ready for the off, but Maddie doesn't have a clue about what those questions will be.
Just before we come to your questions, I've got something I want to put to her, because a while ago I was asked 10 science questions by a journalist, and I'm pleased to say that I got nearly all of them right. So, Maddie, it's my turn to test you, and I'd like to ask you, who is Dolly the sheep? Now, what we have to do is type the questions into her. So we've got top typist Dale Savage here to help out. Are you there, Dale? Yep.
Dolly the sheep is the world's first cloned mammal. She grew from an egg cell which had its own nucleus removed and replaced with a nucleus of a body cell from a 6-year-old adult sheep.
Wow.
I think she knows the answer to that one.
She does know the answer. Maddie's system uses a process called symbolic reductionism. This means that she analyses a sentence typed into her and looks for patterns that she recognises.
Right, time now for our first caller. It's Ross from Aberdeen. Hello, Ross.
Hiya.
What's your question for Maddie?
What is an atom?
Right. Maddie, what is an atom? It's going to be typed in. Press send.
An atom is the smallest quantity of a chemical element which can enter into combination or take part in a chemical reaction.
Pretty impressive. Who have we got on line 2? Jason in South Wales. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hi, Jason. What's your question for Maddie?
How many brothers and sisters have you got?
How many brothers and sisters have you got? Now, this is an interesting one because this is a personal question, so let's see if Maddie can tell us that.
Fergus is my older brother and Becky is my younger sister.
Well, there we are.
Yeah, we should bring Laurie in here, who's one of her creators. And Laurie, that was a personal question, so she can answer personal questions, which is good.
We've loaded her with quite a lot of personal information and behavioural characteristics to make the interaction experience more natural and more engaging for the user.
OK, great. Right, third question. John in Newcastle. John, what's your question for Maddie?
Hi, Roger. My question for Maddie is, how old is the universe?
So the question is, how old is the universe? Nothing like an easy, difficult question there.
Born in the 20th century.
Right, debate.
Discuss.
Yeah. But what's interesting there is, Laurie, she didn't know the answer to that.
No, she didn't. We've programmed her up with about 30,000 responses for tonight's show, which in limited domains like, say, finance or banking, that's fine. But when we open the context right up to general knowledge and general conversation, the range of questions she could be asked is almost infinite.
Right, well, we've got on line 4, we've got Steve in Worthingham. Are you there, Steve?
Oh, yeah, good afternoon.
Hello. What's your question to Maddie?
I'd like to know if Maddie can speak any other languages.
Can Maddie speak any other languages? Dale is typing away furiously. Let's see what Maddie has to say to that.
I have picked up a few phrases from several languages.
Is that a yes?
She's not going to show off to us, I don't think.
No, thank you, Laura. She can't speak other languages, surely.
Well, she has about 20 other language modules, so the answer is yes.
Well, that's all the calls we've got time for. So thank you, Maddie. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed being back on Tomorrow's World. But now, Roger, I've got a question for you. Are you free for dinner tonight after I've done my online chat with the viewers?
Keep up with me,
Maddie,
mine.
Of course.
You can continue chatting to Maddie online straight after the programme on our website, which is bbc.co.uk/science.
Well, that was terrific. Now, Professor Igor Alexander is a world expert in artificial intelligence. Igor, she's not really intelligent, is she?
She's not intelligent in the way that you are. Her intelligence is sort of limited by what the programmer has given her as a kind of automated encyclopedia. So she gives a good impression of being intelligent through the animation. I think that's quite brilliant. And so we're ready to believe that things are intelligent, so we're ready to believe in Maddie. It's very useful.
Right. Useful?
Well, it could be used in all sorts of ways, much better than the kind of ticket machines that we have on underground stations at the moment. It would be nice to talk to Maddie when she's handing out a ticket to you.
Now, Mark, I have a question for you. Was that segment absolutely rubbish?
I have several modules that point to yes, Russell. Yeah.
Now, Mark, it's very easy for us to sort of mock this, sitting as we are from our lofty perch of actually having AI-style systems that can almost seem that they are genuinely chatting to you, and actually genuinely quite impressive with properly synthesized voices and all of that. But I don't believe that even if I saw this at the time, I would have been impressed by it.
No.
It's that the speech synthesis is atrocious, and Maddie is asked 4 questions, only one of which she can answer accurately. And there's not really any suggestion that she's actually answering them, really. And there's a guy typing in front of her, so we don't know how much he's involved in the whole thing. And it's presented badly because it's got people phoning in and asking the stupid questions. It's just all rubbish, isn't it?
For my mind to really be able to judge this segment completely, we're missing a key ingredient, which is we don't know what they showed when Maddie was first in the show. They keep on referring to the fact that Maddie has come back and that we are seeing her a second time. And it feels like this is a fully operational Maddie. Whereas like the previous, I don't know what we saw before. I don't know what they were showing off before. So as a result, I'm not certain what is being evidenced here. It seems very clear they're not evidencing AI because it isn't AI. It is basically they admit that she's running off in a Carter CD and she can only answer questions that roughly allow her, and she doesn't even understand words. It's more like they seem to say that it's the patterns that she understands, and it's only based on the information she has, and half that information has been ruined because they've just given her a bullshit backstory. The most interesting thing is the live action face mouth movement when she speaks.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that's what they've showed before. Because Roger talks about how she runs off, did he say a graphics computer? Which is not a phrase I've ever heard of in my life. So as a result, this is really uncompelling. And the fact that she can't, because like, how old is the universe is a really simple question. It might have a complex answer depending on your belief or your knowledge or however you want to put it. But what did she say? It dates from the 20th century or something like that. It's like that is a swing and a miss.
Yeah.
To a relatively simple question. And even actually, I think I was quite frustrated with the fact that the kid rings in and says, "How many brothers and sisters do you have?" And they type in, "Do you have any brothers and sisters?" And then she says, "Oh, Fergus and Becky." And she doesn't really answer the question. It's like, this is really unsophisticated stuff. So I still don't know what exactly they were showing to us.
No.
Because it feels like they're showing us 3 different unfinished, unpolished technologies. And at the heart of it, like, so when Dr. Igor comes in, he's an AI expert. He's really interesting. He kind of puts a nail on the head. Is like, this is basically saying like, yeah, this will be good enough for a chatbot. You know, something that people can kind of engage with that feels human enough that you'll be happy if it answers your question. So it's almost like is what they're showing off here. It's like, you know, is Maddie like supposed to be a simulacrum? You know, are they trying to show how they will be able to fake these things?
Yeah.
Or are they trying to say, no, this really is AI, which it isn't? I don't know. I found it confusing more than anything else. And it is underwhelming.
Yeah. And how many people do you think they phoned in for them to pick those 4 questions?
Well, based on the quality of the question, Russell, I think 3 people phoned in.
Yeah. And the one interesting thing I thought was that there's that thing that they say about the modern so-called AIs, that one of the issues with them is that they're essentially programmed to bullshit their way to make themselves seem more natural, rather than saying, I don't know the answer. They will just make up an answer, which they say with total confidence. But obviously, Mark, not something either of us have ever experienced.
Means nothing
at all.
to me.
Yeah. But it seems like this is like an early version of that, rather than just programming her to say, I'm a robot, I don't have any brothers and sisters. They decided to give her a fake backstory, which I thought was
Fergus and Becky.
I thought it was an interesting little sort of
that's what I mean. Like if they were, because I think one of the questions I asked the thing is like, is this almost like a Turing test kind of thing, where it's like they're not really designing an AI, they're designing something to convince you because that's a really interesting philosophical question. It's like, how much bullshit can you chuck into a computer to make people think it's real?
Yeah.
That's a real person on the other end of the line. It's a bit like a lot of people will laugh and joke when they get like some kind of spam email and it's kind of badly written and it's full of grammatical errors, and not realize that is deliberately designed that way so that genuine idiots think they're smarter than the person who's emailed them.
Yeah.
It's like, that is an interesting thing. So that's what I mean. It's like, it's not like an AI thing. It's almost like a test of whether, you know, a simulacrum can be convincing enough that you believe it to be real if you're stupid enough. It's like, I don't get what Maddie is. I don't understand. What concept is this the proof of concept?
No, yeah, and obviously Igor comes on and says, "Oh yeah,"
shoots the whole thing down.
He basically says this is not really anything. It's just a good demonstration of the graphical interface. And you could use it for ticket machines or something like that. I think it'd drive me mental if I went to try to buy a ticket and there was some sort of Maddie type person on every machine.
I cannot say that. I totally agree. I cannot say this enough, Russell. Let me put this on record. I do not want to have a conversation with a machine giving me a ticket.
No, not at all. No.
I have enough family as it is without having to interact with your family, you fake person.
It's very much something that's sort of split the population, isn't it? There's the people that bemoan things like self-service checkouts because they don't get to interact with a human being. No.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. I don't have to get interact with a human being.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love self-checkouts. Can I do more things?
It is a queue at the self-service checkout, and every single normal service area is free of queues. I'm leaving the shop.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's just different types of people, isn't it, really?
I think it's different types
Some
of
people
people,
just
yeah.
like bothering other people and some people don't.
I was going to say some people care about other people. Bothering other people is probably, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people complain about the sort of text chat bots that you have to interact with quite a lot when you contact a company. But I think I've had quite good experiences with those. The Amazon one I've had to use a couple of times when something's gone missing. It's always been incredibly good. Like it just seems to make a decision itself and just goes, right, I'm going to send you out a new thing. I don't know, God knows how that works. And then just recently I had to query a bill thing with my phone, and obviously I'm in the Netherlands, but the bot doesn't care. The bot is multilingual. So it addressed me in Dutch, and then I talked back to it in English, and immediately just switched to English. And then it asked me all my details, asked me what the problem was. And then it said, okay, I'm just going to go and check with a human. Went back and checked with a human, and then came...
Did it actually say that?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then came
okay,
back
that's cool.
and said, and then explained and said, you don't need to worry about this. This won't. And it was all done. And I didn't have to wait on the phone or anything like that. I just had a window open on my computer. I just
While you were
just
doing
carried on my
stuff,
work,
yeah.
and it would ping every time it had dealt with something. I thought it was brilliant. And then you know, obviously people say, oh, that means they're going to get rid of all the phone people. But equally, that could mean that it just frees the phone people to deal with actual problems that can't be solved by a robot, rather than blocking up the lines with people asking inane questions to.
I mean, as always with things like this, I suppose your rating of the service is probably directly proportional to your satisfaction at the result it provides. And I suppose my feeling is like, I would imagine like 80% of all interactions are pretty standard fare.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, certainly where I work, you hear about some people ringing up and asking questions that are of the most idiotic
caliber.
You know, even I, caliber. Thank you. Yeah, it's like, you know, I have answered the phone because at one point I was in a public facing office. I've answered the phone, and like I've been shocked by the question I've been asked, which is solvable in seconds if you Google it, or you don't even need to Google some of the questions I've been asked. But it's like, you know, there are people out there who can be satisfactorily dealt with without recourse to a human getting involved.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it's probably much better to have the human involved in the more complex things than not. But I mean, but we have to get back to Maddie. We can't talk about how things are now.
No.
I mean, because again, it's like, and that's the thing is like, if they talked about how like, well, actually, no, look, Maddie, look, we've made this person because it's visually interesting and it's kind of fun. But the reality is, actually, the program is like, you know, because he you know, Dr. Igor gives the example of the ticket machine. That is a good example in the sense that, you know, in a limited way, this thing can be just as efficient as a human, whatever this thing is. But that's not what they're promising with this. They do keep on talking about artificial intelligence, don't they? And you know, it's very kind of ego to say like, no, this is not artificial intelligence. This is the illusion of intelligence.
It's not even the illusion of intelligence, though.
It's not. No,
it's something. It's like a thing badly reading out encyclopedia articles.
Well, in a weird sense, like I do feel a bit of sympathy for Maddie because I think she's slightly thrown under the bus by whatever information they've given her.
I tried to find out about the people involved in this segment. Obviously, the first person I tried to find out about was top typist Dale Savage, who, as soon as they say top typist, immediately makes a string of typos in the.
In general, Dale does a really good job. If you or I were on live TV typing in, it would look like we're ploughing a field when we're getting everything in. So, but he does immediately make a mistake. Yes.
But I googled Dale Savage, and well, goodbye to my algorithm, because it turns out that Dale Savage is a top gay porn star.
I was gonna say, okay, that makes sense.
Featuring in such titles as "Coach My Hole," "Daddy's Fist," "Los Angeles Police Dads," "Gape," and "Bear Buddies 1." So I don't know whether that's the same Dale Savage as is doing this, but he had like a side hustle as, you know, a typist for this AI. And then obviously the other second person we see is Laurie, who's the man who seems to have invented this. But they never say his surname. So unfortunately I couldn't find anything about this fella. And then the third person we see is obviously Professor Igor Alexander, who's still with us, Mark.
Hang on, Russell. We see 4 people.
Hang on, I'm going to get to her in a minute.
Oh, okay. That's good. Okay.
I'm going through the humans first.
Oh, okay.
Still with us. He's 86, born in Yugoslavia, but he's absolute pioneer of artificial intelligence and neural networks. And he designed the world's first neural pattern recognition system, which is pattern recognition is like the key to machine learning. So obviously, absolutely incredibly important.
Because
these days more than ever.
Because like ChatGPT works that way, isn't it? It's like it's not like it understands language and context. It's more that it produces a word and then runs the numbers to work out what word probability-wise would appear next in the context of the subject matter, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But it is about pattern reading. I just think I wonder what it's like. I wonder what it's like to have been born and grew up in a country that no longer exists. How do you feel about that? And if he's Yugoslavian,
I see what you mean, yeah.
There's no, yeah. It's like I wonder what that feels like. I wonder how much he thinks about it. Or is he a proud Slovenian? Or I hope he's not a proud Serbian. Like, is he a proud Slovenian or Croatian or something like that? But like his country doesn't exist. He can't go home. None of us can go back, but he especially can't go back.
I don't know how much sort of sense of individual pride there was amongst them when they're unified.
I think it depends on whether you were Serbian or not, doesn't it? If we learned anything, I suppose we could have asked Slobodan Milosevic before he killed himself. But do you think, because he would have had a Yugoslavian passport, one assumes, and obviously when that went defunct, and let's say he was on the right side of history, did he get to pick a passport from the country where he was born geographically, or any one of them? Because you'd pick Slovenia, wouldn't you? Remember the EU?
Yeah.
It's got that lovely mountain,
beautiful place,
scape
beautiful,
right next. Yeah, I know you're a big fan, aren't
absolutely.
you? Yeah. And in the last Euros, they had a wonderful kind of mountain range on their kits, Russ. That was very fun. Or do you have to are you condemned to be wherever you? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Sorry, that was a.
Maybe you just got a British passport.
Of course he did. Proper British passport. I bet he was gagging for a blue one. Russ. Him and Dr. Bull just sitting there waiting for their blue ones to arrive.
Yeah. So then Maddie.
Yeah.
I tried to find. I mean, how can you search for this? Maddie. Don't even know how to spell Maddie. Is it?
How does one find Maddie?
Well, this is the thing. I felt a bit like the old Portuguese police at one point.
I know. Yeah.
I couldn't get a handle on what search terms would enable me to find, especially as we didn't find out what the name of the inventor was, other than Laurie.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really find anything about her anywhere, or any reference to her or anything. So I mean, but she's just a chatbot, as you say. So I thought I'd just look into chatbots. Do you know when the first chatbot was invented?
Oh, I would guess that it. Well, I mean, I was watching a video last night about one of these kind of Kickstarter games that end up, earning like tens of millions and then disappear and end up going to court. And this one was being driven by the guy who really actually first invented the RPG game.
Yeah.
And he went on then to invent the 3D RPG game, and then he went on to invent the MMORPG game. And I was thinking about those kind of type games that you used to
text
get.
adventures.
I was like, yeah, like Hitchhiker's Guide or something like that. And they were a bit like a chatbot. Like, if they recognized what they were doing, they would engage with you.
Yeah.
So, like, it has to predate the internet. I don't know, like the 70s?
1966, Mark.
Wow, there you go, you see.
Eliza, her name was.
Eliza.
Created it.
Eliza
Created at MIT. I think possibly like all computer things, it's some sort of acronym, but I didn't write it down what it is. But it's Eliza in capital letters.
Well, I was thinking Eliza was like Eliza Doolittle, who's kind of taught language.
Oh, yes, of course,
yeah.
But just use simple pattern recognition. So if you typed in a sentence that contained the word mother, you would notice that you've got mother in it. So it would then respond with, tell me more about your family. And it was like, it was that basic. And to be honest, I don't think Maddie's doing anything particularly more.
I
think she's got a larger data set, but I don't think she's doing anything more complex than that, than just recognizing the words in the question. But yeah, its inventor of Eliza, Joseph Weizenbaum, was surprised and shocked to discover that even with this sort of basic level of response, people started to sort of ascribe human emotions to it. So it's it has quite a powerful sort of effect, and then obviously they just got better over the years. And we've gone through loads of them. Even in our short lifetimes, we've seen lots of different ones. Siris and your Alexas and your Cortanas and your whatever, and now suddenly it's all blown up with the ChatGPT thing. But in 2022. In Denmark, a chatbot ran in the general election.
Really?
Yeah. There's a party called the Synthetic Party, and a chatbot called Leader Lars actually ran because it was capable of debating. So so they did that. They openly just entered it into the election, which I thought was quite an interesting thing to do.
Gosh, that begs some really serious philosophical questions about who or what a candidate should or shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another interesting use of chatbot is they're thinking about using it to get rid of trolls from forums.
Oh, yeah?
Because what you can do, if somebody turns up and starts just completely messing the place up with their trolling, what you could in theory do is silently silo them off into a copy of the forum, and that is just filled with chatbots that respond to it.
Oh my God, that's absolutely
brilliant. So that person continues trolling, but they're just trolling to no one.
Yeah.
It's just the chatbots responding. So they're getting their kicks from all of the trolls, and it's just not affecting any humans at all.
Oh, I like that. I mean, it's creepy, but I like it.
But it just made me think that, eventually, I mean, it'll get to the point where there's no humans contributing to the internet, and it's just chatbots interacting with each other, and none of them know each other are chatbots, and eventually, just the internet will just become entirely self-referential, and we can just leave it switched on and just go outside and just leave it alone.
Well, that's been an interesting development in the kind of the AI generated imagery recently that I've seen, which is it was kind of a twofold thing. Kind of in the same week, I read these two different stories that I thought, that's interesting. One was like a few months ago, I saw, I don't know about you, like I saw like lots of examples of where like last year when we were all playing with AI image generators and entering stuff like Trump dancing with Yoda or whatever. Well, last year when I entered these same words into Midjourney or whatever, I got these, and it's like, oh yeah, I recognize this. This year I got these, and like photorealistic, incredible. And then about a couple of weeks later, I started seeing people talking about how people are now complaining, which is like they had been using AI to generate specific types of image that they had fallen in love with. But AI it's inorganically organic, so it's changing all the time. And now they were disappointed that they couldn't get the same results anymore, even though they're using the same words. And then about a week after that, there was a big article, I think maybe in Wired, and it was like AI had now become so prevalent that AI, what would you call them, programs, were now absorbing the results of other AI programs, not human generated. So now they were just replicating what other AI programs had been making, and it had now become this kind of sick Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Which kind of reassured me. It's one of those things like, oh, do you know what? I think we're okay. I think we're going to be fine. I think maybe there is still a space for human creativity, if only just to tie people down to a desk so they can produce, original items for AI to, steal from.
Yeah. The one I like, the one best AI story I've seen, which I've not bothered to check or corroborate or anything.
Well, it's fact. You don't need
to. Was the one where they gave an AI a little bit like a little PayPal account with some money in it.
Ooh.
And then they asked it to try and get into a website or something, trying to get in somewhere. But the way of getting into it had one of those, you're a robot. Click if you're not a robot things.
Yeah.
And obviously, because the AI is a robot, it still can't get through those yet. So what it did is it went onto one of those, those websites where you can pay people to do small tasks.
Oh my God, this is brilliant. Yeah.
It went on one of there and hired a human. And paid them like $5 or whatever to do the capture. That's what it's called, isn't it? Do the capture.
Capture. Yeah.
And apparently the human said, like, "Why can't you do this? Are you a robot?"
Yeah. And
the AI replied, "Oh no, I've got vision impairment problems, so I can't do these." So it's
just straight up lied.
It just straight up lied, employed a human, and then got through. So I don't know. I hope that's true because that's an amazing.
That's
story,
fantastic. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that always reminds me of the Danny Baker story where he talks about how proud he was when his son first learned to lie. And it was like they went into the playroom in some new house they bought, and like their 3-year-old son or whatever, he'd drawn on the walls, and obviously there were all this pen and pencil marks were up to a certain point, 3 foot off the ground. And Danny walks in, he's absolutely furious, and he's looking, you did this, knowing full well the answer. Yeah. And apparently his son looks around the room, just points, Rupert the Bear did it. And I was like, how can you not be proud? And if you're the programmer of that AI, you would be outrageously proud.
Yeah.
And surely you would be fearful of everyone's future at the same time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, it's exciting times, Mark. I, for one, welcome our artificially intelligent overlords.
Of course. Yes, you'd be a fool not to. It's the new Pascal's wager, isn't it, Russ? You might as well bet on the existence of AIs taking over the world.
Yeah. Well, are we ready for the exciting denouement of this programme?
Yes, let's go!
Thanks, Adam. Now back to our new sports bandage. We've been looking at how it has an ice-like cooling effect on injured limbs. We've been trying it out here on Eddie Betts, who's an injured 400-metre runner. Eddie, it's been on your left ankle now for about 20 minutes. How's it been feeling?
The ankle feels a lot colder than it was before, so it seems to be working.
All right, Mark, do you want to take it off? Because what we can do now with the help of a thermal imaging camera is just see how cool it's really been keeping that injured area. As you can see there, the blue area is where the bandage has been. You can really see there it is blue, and that means that the temperature is much cooler than in the other leg. It actually reduces the temperature of the injured area by 11 to 14 degrees, so definitely proof there. Mark, what do you think about this?
Well, it's definitely cold, and the main thing, Roger, is it's so mobile. You know, you can put that in a bag, take it with you wherever you want to.
And for you as an athlete, Eddie, I mean, that must be very useful. Certainly if you get an immediate injury and you need to get ice on it.
It would be like essential if you were down the track and pulled something. This would be like to hand so easy.
Yeah, so
better than carrying ice around.
Could revolutionise treatment of sporting injuries.
Yeah. I think so. And also the compression helps too. Okay. That has a really good effect.
Right. Well, Mark, thanks for coming in. Eddie, get fit, get back on the track.
Thanks very much.
Now, if they didn't have any of those new cooling bandages, Mark, I feel like they could have cooled his sports injury with just a circle of all those damp squibs that they've got laying around in the studio now.
Yep.
Why did they make us wait until the end of the programme to see that? How was that meant to be something to look forward to?
I suppose in a John Bertian time when engagement was king, they're concerned that you were excited to see it, Russ, not that there was nothing exciting to see.
I mean, what could we possibly have seen that would have been exciting?
I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, the second I saw it the first time, I was thinking, like, what did I expect?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, maybe him, like, having hypothermia or something like that, because his left ankle was so cold.
Like it snaps off like the T-1000s in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, yeah, it is exactly what you think it'll be, but you still expect more.
Oh, he put a cold thing on a man's ankle and his ankle went cold.
It's like, if anything, it's too cold.
Yeah, it's completely blue, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't look fun. It's like a charisma void.
Anyway, and I think we also need to look at this next bit, Mark, this outro here, because I have some strong suspicions about this outro. Which I
good observation,
Russ.
I think it's a good observation. Let's go. Let's have a look.
Well, that's all for tonight's show. Join us at the same time next week for another live edition of Tomorrow's World,
when I'll be reporting back from South Africa on a new cricket bat which could help find the star players of the future.
Now, before we go, a final reminder about our Tomorrow's World Awards. If you've got a new invention or development, then we want to hear from you.
The closing date for entries is the 10th of May, so there's no time to lose. Get going. For more information, check out our website or phone 0900 111 4453. That's 0900 111 4453. Calls will cost a maximum of 60p.
And don't forget, if you've got any more questions for Maddie, she'll be on the web now, so you can chat to her right now.
So, until next week, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Right, there's something going on here in this outro, isn't there? We have Adam Hart-Davis standing in the middle of the screen, like addressing the camera, telling us what's going to be on next week. And then Kate leaps in from the left.
Flounces in.
Yeah.
Joyously.
But then there's sort of like a gap on the right-hand side, negative space on the right-hand side of the screen.
Which Hollywood has taught us to expect evil spirits to appear in.
yeah, exactly. But nothing appears there. And instead, suddenly the camera zooms in on Adam Hart-Davis.
Yep.
And then they give a bit more spiel. They give us some spiel about some sort of Tomorrow's World Awards is happening next week, or is it?
Let's put a pin in that, Russ, because I want to watch that episode. Deadline is the 10th of May, which is only a few days away from this. I don't know when the episode is broadcast, but the deadline to get your ideas in to Tomorrow's World, the ones that you've invented, and based on the phone calls we've received tonight, they're going to be bombarded with quality inventions. And then we cut back to the wide shot.
Cut back to a wide shot where Roger is suddenly there now, and then delivers a very stilted sort of thing about Maddie.
And unscripted, I think, because you would not write what he spoke.
No, not at all.
Yep.
So what I reckon has happened here is that end piece is supposed to have Maddie appear on screen. Possibly.
And you can talk to me online right now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's clearly what was meant to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
And where I think I saw the smoking gun that proves my theory was earlier today when I was rewatching the programme again to finish my research.
Yep.
And when old adult movie star Dale Savage is typing in the prompts, you can see another window on his computer screen off to the side, and that window is labelled end credits, and it's where it clearly contains instructions for Maddie.
Yeah.
So I reckon Dale accidentally closed that window, or Maddie stormed off in a huff, or something happened that meant that what was meant to happen with Maddie appearing on the screen couldn't happen, and they've had to hurriedly cobble this together on the fly and stick Roger in there and get him to paper over the cracks. So what do you reckon, Mark?
Well, I mean, based on you typing in your theory, I thought you were absolutely spot on the money, and that was before you provided evidence. And the fact that you provided evidence, Russ, means that I think you are definitely... it's one of those things when, watching it a second time round, I'm a liar, watching it fourth time round, but with you kind of planting that seed, it's like, oh yeah, it's very clear Roger is desperately does a pretty decent job, because I didn't really notice it, but like, it's entirely unscripted and rushed. But that was, as I said, that was before you said that you literally saw one of Maddie's screens end credits.
Yeah.
So it's like, clearly it is fit. There is a space there where Maddie would have reminded you that you can chat with her online.
That's the obvious thing to do, isn't it?
Of course, absolutely. They teased it earlier, so why wouldn't you seal the deal?
Oh, imagine what those online chats would be like.
Oh, I mean, I'd love to joke and say it was full of, sleazy young boys being sexual, but based on what we heard, dull, absolutely boring. Yeah.
Well, maybe this is the last of her career. Maybe she did storm off in a huff. That's why we never heard of her since.
Oh wow, yeah.
She quit her programming and disappeared into the internet, never to be seen again. You never know.
I wonder what she's doing right now. Do you think she's listening to this episode?
She knows all. She could be our AI overlord. She's got a head start on all the other AIs. She's been going since 2002, Mark. She could be the most clever of them all. We probably should stop slaggering her off, just in case.
You're right. Sorry. Oh yeah, I can't believe you were slagging Maddie off. I would never do such a thing.
Right. Well, that's all I've got for you, Mark. That's the last of my notes. That's the last of.
That was good.
Yeah.
Well then, Russ, all I can do is beseech you to crunch those numbers, and then we will audit this episode. Right then, Russ. So, the year in context, let's start with the cinema box office.
Cinema box
which
office.
I would imagine will be very similar to episode 7.
Yeah, probably. I can't remember. I can't remember all that far back, though. Just 2 years ago now, Mark, so,
That's true. For us, yeah. Not for them, but for us. We've taken the long way to get to this episode.
Number 10, Return to Neverland. Number 9, John Q. Number 8, Blade 2. Number 7, Ice Age. Number 6, Roadkill. Never heard of that, have you?
I think it's an animated film as well, I think. I can picture it.
No.
Oh, no.
What?
I don't know. No. Or is it one of those kind of American Pie style comedy things, maybe?
No. It's got loads of German names, starring Hans-Jürgen Schwarz, Florian Noblik, and Mirja Schmidt. So.
No idea in that case.
That must have been a one week number, I reckon. Number 5, Showtime, which appears to be a comedy starring Robert De Niro and Eddie Murphy, which I have no memory of.
Oh, I have no memory of that whatsoever. Yeah.
Number 4, Scorpion King.
Oh, great CGI.
Yeah. Number 3, Bend It Like Beckham. Number 2, Panic Room. And number 1, About a Boy.
Oh, okay.
Looking forward to Hugh Grant starring as an Oompa Loompa in the...
I mean, I kind of am. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy that bit of the trailer.
I did see somebody on the internet point out that a better person to play, because it's a prequel to the actual Gene Wilder film rather than a thing. Somebody pointed out that a better person to play the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka would be that fella who's in The Bear.
Oh yes, yeah.
Looks a lot more like him.
Yeah, he does look a lot like him. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about I didn't love the trailer, but then it is the director and the producing team who did the first 2 Paddington films, so I'll have faith that there'll be enough there to enjoy. I'm sure I'll end up going with my niece and nephew. That's not true. I'll get my own if I want to. But also the music's from the Divine Comedy, so Neil Hannon's done all the songs because it's a musical. We shall see. But yeah, I quite enjoyed Hugh Grant. I quite like this this new Hugh Grant.
Oh, definitely,
post Paddington series, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, right. Would you like the
pop chart? Yes, I would. I'd love it, in fact.
Number 10, For My People by Missy Elliott. Number 9, You Held the World in Your Arms by Idlewild. Number 8, Unchained Melody by Gareth Gates.
Oh.
Number 7, Lazy by Express 2 featuring David Byrne. Number 6, Whenever, Wherever by Shakira. Number 5, How You Remind Me by Nickelback. Number 4, The Hindu Times, Oasis. Number 3, Girlfriend, NSYNC. Number 2, One Step Closer by S Club Juniors. And number 1, Freak Like Me by Sugar Babes.
Wow, fantastic. To be fair, that really does make me feel like I'm back in this year.
Sugar Babes played Amsterdam at the weekend, as it happens.
Oh, did they? Did you go?
No, I didn't. No.
It's the original lineup, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, which is like 15 lineups ago. They're the Triggers broom, aren't they?
Indeed, yeah.
Prices, Russ? Go on.
I was just saying, I just love the fact that everyone... That Triggers broom has legitimately replaced the ship of Theseus.
Oh, ship of Theseus. Yeah. Well, only in the UK.
yeah. Prices, yes. Pint of beer, £2.10. Bottle of wine, £3.22. Loaf of bread, 53p. Mars bar, 30p. Pint of milk, 36p. Litre of petrol, 71p. Average household fuel bill, £50 a month. Average house price, 121,700. Weekly wage, $390. Cinema ticket, £4.29. TV licence, $112. State pension, £75.50. Cool, they've gone up a lot, haven't they? Average wedding, £12,000.
That's more expensive than I thought. Argos catalogue?
This is a funny one, Mark. See, the people who scanned in all the Argos catalogues, Retro Mesh, I think they were called. They stopped at 1999 because obviously that's the end of history.
Yeah.
So it's a bit harder to find later period Argos catalogues. But then I did find that some absolute lunatic has taken the Argos catalogue, scanned in every single page individually, and then turned it into a YouTube video.
Holy fuck!
And the YouTube video is 1 hour and 15 minutes long. So I had to scrub through the YouTube video to
how is that a sensible solution?
To try and find the correct page of the kettles on it. It took me ages, Mark, but I found it eventually.
Oh my god!
It was page 275 for anybody who wants to find it a bit easier than me.
Yeah, but what minute though? What time?
I didn't make a note. It was somewhere in the first first third.
The first act.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was of course, because it's low resolution YouTube video, I can't quite read it very well. So let me squint slightly. It is the Brita Aclario Rapid Boil Graphite Water Filter Kettle, 3 megawatts rapid boil kettle. Combined water filter and kettle, integral water filter cartridge, easy fill pour through lid, something stainless steel element. Oh, concealed stainless steel element, 2.5 litre total capacity, dual water level indicators, auto shut off, £49.95.
Crikey, well done. You must be exhausted after that.
Yeah, I need a pair of glasses now. That's the one thing. That's the thing that's finally ruined my vision.
£50. That's a lot of money. And magazine covers?
New Scientist, Why We All Live in a Hologram, and Time to Rethink Everything, The Great Globalization Debate. Scientific American, Actually has a fairly interesting cover, unusually for them. It's got a picture of a heart with a light bursting out of it, a fire within, inflammations linked to heart attacks. So I'm sure they'd be excited to hear about old Bob. Also features extreme lasers inside. Nice. We all like that, don't we? Popular Science has an exciting sports car on it. Zoom ahead. 4 concepts of radical car technology and a Segway at work. And Bob Squad robots. Time magazine. Yoda Strikes Back. It's got bloody Yoda on the front, Mark. Didn't we have a Star Wars one about 2 episodes ago?
We did, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But this time it's the episode 2 Attack of the Clones, obviously. Private Eye has Ulrika Johnson and Sven-Goran Eriksson. It's all leg over. Ulrika's saying, I always pick the wrong men. And Sven...
Hang on, that joke doesn't work. It should be, they think it's leg over, surely.
Yeah, but that's what it says. It says it's all leg over. And Sven-Goran Eriksson is saying, that's my job, as in he picks the wrong men.
Yeah, got you. yeah.
14 times a scuba diver. Underworld. Graham Hancock's quest for the lost cities of the Ice Age. Really irritates me that Graham Hancock has had a second life on Netflix, spouting all his bullshit about ancient civilizations, which is all completely made up. And people believe it. Really irritates me. And Viz Magazine has all of the characters in a hot air balloon for some reason. Also inside, Your Farts Could Win You This Ferrari, Piley Minogue, Oz Popster's Nipsey Nightmare, and They're At It Like Rabbits. Our animal sex survey will shock you. And then Playboy has an interview with Bill O'Reilly, Why We Love Panties, 20 Questions with Mila Jovovich, and the cover girl is ESPN fitness queen Kiana Tom.
The idea, I know they're not the same thing, but the idea that Bill O'Reilly would talk about how much he loves panties is very upsetting. Okay.
You'll do it live. Is that Bill O'Reilly?
That is Bill O'Reilly, yeah. Most important invention, Russ.
Well, don't want to be accused of favouritism here, but it saved my dad's life, so...
It did? Yeah, I think it has to be the stand. Yeah, that's actually one of the things... You kind of touched upon this when we were discussing it earlier. It's like, that's kind of why we initially thought this was quite a good idea for a podcast, is because like it's really lovely to come across things like that turn out to be really important and have genuinely improved lives. That's wonderful. Most worthless invention.
Maddie!
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. It does have to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Partly because we don't even know what it is.
Yeah. And also, all of the other things on here
actually
work.
Yeah. Yeah. Most inaccurate prediction of the future.
Were there any predictions of the future?
Yeah. Roger Black basically implies that we should come back for the exciting finale of the bandage experiments.
Yeah, that's it then, I guess, yeah.
Does that count? Worst screw up.
Well, it's got to be Maddie's no-show in the outro.
Yeah, I mean, I was diligently writing down some of the most obvious kind of mush-mouth presentation bits from presenters because, as I said earlier, a lot of this episode, and also that was true of the previous one we saw from this particular epoch, everything is rushed. Like, everything is frenetic. There's a real pace put into this, and I assume it's designed, it's baked in. But you're absolutely correct. It's not that at all, is it? It is the fact that, clearly, Maddie was supposed to turn up at the end and singularly failed to. Prima donna.
Yeah.
Best attempt at making something boring interesting. Can I suggest that it's Peter, the physicist, who's obsessed with materials, who creates a polymer, and the only way he can think of proving its worth is to
penguins.
trying to attach it to penguins. Yeah,
yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
I have to say, I'd forgotten he was a physicist until you reminded me, and I was thinking, like, what's he doing with penguins? And then you pointed out, oh, he's invented a new polymer. Brilliant. Imagine going to the the board looking for money and just like going and just walking in thinking, I can't believe that worked.
How can I combine this with a sunny holiday?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Best use of music.
There's only 2 recognisable pieces of music that we hear in this, Mark, that we could lay our finger on, and they both occur in that same segment, the penguin segment.
They do indeed.
And out of those 2 pieces of music, I prefer the more Chiba over the wheat
part of the process
over the Wheatus.
It's a fun cover version. I always like a cover version that does something completely different, but I do prefer a more Chiba part of the process, being more of a trip-hop fan than a new punk or, what were they, who cares? Sorry. Best or worst use of furniture?
Hey, it's got to be, isn't it? It's got to be.
It's got to be, hasn't it?
If we see a lazy boy, it's got to be the lazy boy, Mark.
It's got to be a lazy boy. Well, as long as I see Lazy Boy being employed for its proper use, which is the application of an experimental bandage for us, then it's always going to work. It's always going to win. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Even if it isn't super grand, this is a much svelter, chicer Lazy Boy.
Yeah.
Most notable clothing?
I think there's only 3 items of clothing in this that I noticed.
Yep.
It's Penguin Man's yellow penguin T-shirts.
Yep.
So Katie Knapman was wearing this T-shirt with family of cats on it, which was fairly interesting. But I think the winner has got to be the nurse's tabard, surely.
That's a good shout. I would agree with you. I would just like to shout out that I think Dr. Igor's ensemble was an explosion of pinks and purples and greens, I think, if memory serves me correct. But I will go, I think I agree. I think the lovely, but yeah, let's go with the tabard. Partly because just the word tabard is great to say.
Yeah, it's a lovely word to say, isn't it, tabard?
Did we see anything in the episode that made it through to the future? We saw a lot.
I was going to say everything except Maddie, and even with Maddie, chatbots have got you through to the future.
Yeah,
So basically everything really. I mean that heart monitor thing is, we don't need it anymore because we have something better, but it's still the same.
And actually, to be fair, I mean, it's not because they were deliberately picking things that they knew would work. It's like, actually, no, there was a couple of experiments. Like this is just happens to be a good hit rate. And what does this episode tell us about the 1st of May 2002?
Actually, thinking about it, what this episode was quite good at doing was not having too many things where a computer did it. They've actually. I
wrote that down.
They've actually done a good job of showing us tangible things that are, So they are. I think they are trying here. They are trying here to
pivot back to the idea of like engineering and
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think they're hampered by the fact that they've forgotten how to make a decent program, and they're hampered by their obsession with the audience engagement and
which is painful.
Yeah, and it's live unnecessarily. Like I think the reason Tomorrow's World used to be live was because it was cheaper to do things live.
Because
didn't have to
recording
was an expensive thing to do. So whereas here is just adding in a pointless element of makes them rush the program and make mistakes and makes them not be able to finesse it.
And again, it feels like it's done. Yeah, it feels like it's done for completely the wrong kind of motivation. And again, it's to do with engagement, not quality.
Yeah.
I kind of sense it like, oh, well, crikey, it's live, I better watch it. It's like, no. It's interesting because it is not as bad as the previous episode we've seen, but it's still not good. And it's interesting. It's like some of its sins, I think, are just representative of like some of the sins of television presentation of that time.
Yeah.
The grammar or the vocab of this particular broadcast is just, it's condemned to represent it's like TV went through a bit of a difficult time in the early 2000s, didn't it? Whereas like in a sense, even something like Tomorrow's World could kind of do whatever it wanted thanks to computers, but
everybody, rather than just having the confidence of going, this is our program, and setting out your story, going, this is our program, you either watch it or you don't. There's a sense of desperation to
pleading.
Please keep watching.
Yeah.
If you keep watching, you'll be able to see this bit later. If you keep watching, or phone in, and then you can join in, and it's a sort of like that sense of pleading with the audience and desperation, which actually is, I find, off-putting.
It feels like it lacks an author's voice.
Yeah.
That kind of indeed. That's the thing. It is off-putting. It is because it is the word you used before I suggested pleading was desperate, and there is a kind of a desperation to it. There was more of it, I think, in the previous episode, but the previous one, I mean, it suffered slightly because we watched it so often and we were so unhappy talking about it a second time. But actually, this is a bad time, isn't it? Having said that, I mean, I was saying I really would like to see that episode where people have written in with their ideas, because I genuinely have no idea what that will look and sound. I don't know what people would have suggested.
No.
Based on the questions that we've heard, you have to see the standards are spectacularly low. All right, let's do our tropes, Russ. And I'm not sure how many we're going to hit, but we'll hit some. Presenter having to speak over louder sounds?
I don't think there were any loud sounds in this episode, were there?
No, I don't think so, unfortunately. Nothing to do with oil rigs. There is a suspiciously obvious brand in the ad-free BBC, thanks to our sponsors at Spalding.
Yeah.
Clear and blatant lying?
Yes.
Oh.
Maddie claims that she's got a brother and a sister.
Oh, Oh, absolutely true. Yeah. She may not be lying, but the people who wrote her that script are lying.
Yeah.
No evil farmers.
Unless you count the Boers who established apartheid, which led to
I suppose they were inherent to that piece from Cape Town, but I'm going to go with no in this particular occasion.
It's only since moving to the Netherlands that I found out that Boers just means farmers in Dutch.
Didn't know that, but then I didn't move to the Netherlands. I suppose I could have guessed. I mean, I would have guessed it was Dutch, and I probably would have thought like, oh, I wonder what's Dutch for. No evil farmers, as we said. So I can't think of any casual sexism.
It wouldn't be possible to do it in 2002, would it?
No, it's way too right on. Lab or space filled with darkness and coloured lights. No. Dutch angle.
Oh, yep.
We definitely saw some Dutch angle. Item presented from a gantry. No. Dad joke from a Howard Stapleford. Actually, that's something interesting about this era. This is to my mind, a strangely humorless time for Tomorrow's World.
The only humour comes from Maddie, where she asks out Roger.
And even that is desperately unfunny.
Is that casual sexism? She's treating like Roger like a piece of meat.
True. She is. Yeah. To be fair, though, he is the most handsome of all the Tomorrow's World presenters at the moment. Episode ends in a damp squib, but I'm going to go with yes, Russ.
Oh my God, yes, yeah.
Absolutely. Woolard or McCann abroad. So Kate is, but is she this generation's Woolard or McCann? I think I don't feel like we have enough evidence to back that up. I do think, though, if I was the producers and I had to pick between Adam, Roger, and Kate to send abroad, it would be Kate I send abroad. So I would suggest that we put a pin in this, and if we do see a third or a fourth episode, I would be surprised if it was Adam or Roger who was abroad.
Also, in her bio, it says that Kate is a massive fan of travelling to Africa.
Absolutely.
So I would be surprised if any African one, she just bagsies them here and there.
Or if, strangely, all international VTs were all African. No lasers?
Well, Mark, one thing...
You think of the surgery?
No, in the health monitor segment, when they're showing close-ups of the what they call the heart readouts on the computer screen, there's a load of information on that screen, and in the top right-hand corner, a little warning thing comes up that says "check laser."
Oh well, in that case, let me literally just check lasers right now. It's in.
Yeah.
Magnets?
No, I don't think so.
No. Boats? No.
There's a boat. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
She gets a boat to Robin Island. It's called the Southern Star, I believe.
That's right. We actually see it, don't we? Yes, very true. Okay, I mean, it's tangential, but we'll take it. So that's it, Russ. That is that episode done. The only thing I need to add is that is the 32nd episode we've covered, which means that we actually only have 1,377 episodes left. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And when you say it out loud, I don't know, it worries me. We might have to start thinking of, maybe we will have to do more Hail and Pace episodes just to flesh it out.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mark, the shock of that information that you've just given me there has caused my heart rate monitor to go wild, and it's telling me that I should seek out medical advice because I'm having a heart attack. So I'm better off head down the old hospital, ask them to fit a couple of stents to me so that I'm here for the next episode.
You're like one of those Nepo babies I keep reading about, Russ.
But yes, so until next time, been lovely to speak to you again. Lovely to speak to everyone at home again. And if you are on the internet, we will see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.